쿠타이거즈가 활약 면에서는 전혀 부족함이 없습니다. 이니시에이팅, 뭐 라인전 단계에서 갖는 강력함 다 가져간 느낌이고, 스베누는 상대 조합을 보면서 좀 뒤늦게 맞춰간 느낌이 있긴 합니다만, 확실한 건 어떤 특정 챔프들이 흥하지 않으면 경기 운영이 조금 부담될 수 있을 것 같아요.
그래도 이 정도면 뭐 야스오 입장에서
자, 프레이가 떴죠?
토스?
자, 이거를 도망 다이브!
예.
다이브! 그냥
이거는
프레이!
오히려!
입장 바뀌었어요!
더블킬!
이번에는
근데 이것은 전투차 싸움?
여기서! 자, 캐치 걸렸어요!
글쎄요.
궁 일단 징계가
아니,
있긴
이게
자, 이걸라이죠?
자신감이 있을 리가 없는데요,
네.
지금 이 싸움은.
5명. 자, 마법성하다
마법성하다.
오거는 맞겠죠?
맞았어요. 그리고
쿠로 위험한데요?
쿠로 죽었고요.
5명이
역시 5명 모이면
럼블.
아무것도 못하고 케일이 찾았어요.
네.
럼블.
자, 이제 애쉬였어요.
럼블 애쉬에 뭐 다 난리 났습니다.
아니 이게 케일이 방금 그렇게 잡히면 안 됐었는데
자, 이제 킬 아직 안 끝났다. 소울. 네가 탱커냐?
공사에 집중.
네.
찾았고요. 트리플킬. 호지 트리플킬.
네.
처음 바텀 거기서부터 꼬인 게
또 만나네요.
생각은 나겠네요. 일단 여기서라도
마법의 속도가 짧고.
소속 폭발 느낌 있고요.
한명 전사. 자, 반대로 여기서 뉴클리어가 한번. 뉴클리어가 베일이.
끝까지 싸우면 안
K
될 것
왔어요.
같은데.
K 왔어요.
네. 끝까지 싸우면 안 되는데요.
야, 이거 애쉬가
뭔가 해줄 게 없습니다.
네.
슬로우.
오진이. 아이고. 네.
내가 들어가서 죽겠다.
네.
이길 수 있다라는 생각은
자,
잘 안
한번
들고요.
먼저 불었는데.
일단 잘 들어가긴
자,
했어요.
럼블 오기 전에. 럼블 오기 전에 기다려야 돼.
아니, 애쉬가 너무 오래 살아요. 안 죽어요.
럼블 오면
럼블 와요.
럼블 와요. 자, 이제 불질
말 그대로 학살이
트리플킬. 네. 자, 럼블이 이동하면 가먹히면
K 터졌네요.
네. K를 죽고
아무것도 못하고 터졌어요.
네. 캐치 찾죠.
꺼내 왔고요.
다음 이런 식으로
자, 먼저 불죠. 자, 이렇게 나갈 수 없잖아요. 자, 프레이를 한번 어떻게 돼? 키레나. 좋아요.
아니 근데 프레이가 죽는 동안
아우.
베리시 딜링을 너무 많이 받고 있고요.
소울 죽고.
이거
문제가
끝까지 싸우면
있긴
또
있어요.
집니다.
걸어주고.
끝까지 싸우면
또
또
스매미
져요.
불질. 스매미 불질.
그래도 포탑
스맵이-
끼고
자.
포탑 끼고 어떻게든
스맵이
아니, 막 트리플킬.
오.
예.
트리플 킬만 몇 번 나왔어요? 3번 나왔어요.
예.
한번 킬 한번 노려봐야 되고요.
네. 그럼 상대가 뺍니다.
먼저 들어갔고.
상대가 빼고 스크린.
스크린 못 버텨요. 못
전사.
버팁니다. 자,
파이팅.
리신이
컬라이저 타이거즈는 그런
네.
버티는 상대를
까지
멋지게
아니 럼블은 아무런 압박을 안 받으면서 계속 불 지르고 있어요. 계속.
네. 자, 우리는 안될 때 보여줘야 돼. 바로 치죠 1.4. GJ.
이제 소닉 붐이 굉장히 정석적인 밸런스 잡힌 조합을 일단 가져갔습니다. 무난한 선택이고
네.
뭐 많이 나왔던 조합 형태예요. 그에 반해서 쿠타이거즈가 오히려 좀 많이 꼬았죠. 바텀에서 굉장히 공격적인 라인업도 하고 미드 특패를 통해서 후에 렉사이 뭐 나르와 같이 운영할 여지도 많고 게임은 좀 굉장히 다변화할 수 있는 요소가 많습니다. 멘토스
빨라!
예. 지금 왔거든요.
2차.
제대로 들어갔어요. 제대로예요. 이거 다이브, 오인 다이브, 오인
네.
다이브예요.
나루! 득패!
이거 어떡하죠? 어떻게 이거
네.
다
골카.
이거는 순간이동도 의미 없는데요.
어떻게 할 수 없.
워프라
그래도 하나 데려가나요?
네! 타워!
예.
프론 잡기 잡았는데
3대2.
CS 30개 이상 차이가 나고
와! 그렇죠!
이거는 거의 완벽했어요. 거의 완벽했어요.
그렇죠!
진짜 한테 계속 얻어맞고 있어요.
해켄도 와요! 해켄도 와요!
헤카리도 진입했고요.
헤넨 일단 터지고요.
헤네는
헤넨은
터졌는데 이거 끝까지 뒤를 봐야 돼요.
헤카리 뒤에서 따로 놀고 있고요. 일단 투페 앞으로.
자, 1대1
아, 이거.
자, 쿠로가 그리고 프레이가
더블킬.
입만 때려. 두잇. 두잇.
두잇.
혼자. 반격.
이거
반격.
메가나를 일본 직접.
뺏었고요. 이거 그지.
자, 그런데 도망갈 수
돌려봤죠?
있나요?
예.
도망갈 수
네.
있나요? 도망갈 수
자,
있나요?
케빈도 진입합니다. 여차면.
그림 같은 한타.
네. 프로가 딜을 해주고요. 4명 전사.
아니 이거는 약간
메가나의 타이밍.
이게도 왔는데요. 이거 너무 허무하게 지금
네.
수비가 아예 안
특별 공간으로.
나를 또 들어.
그냥 안으로 그냥
네,
제대로
빨리
들어갔어요.
끝내자. 빨리 끝내자.
야,
말 그대로 빨리 끝내자.
네.
이거 진짜.
아우 전사.
그 오랜만에 진짜 최근에 3점 3연패를 하면서 좀 좋지 않은 흐름이었었는데
네.
시원한 경기 줍니다.
그리고 경기 마무리입니다.
Matchup. Coup Tiger. Najin EM Fire. 2015 Spenu League of Legends Champions Korea Summer.
Hello and welcome back. And this is a run to the Worlds or finals today. This is Joe and Jung. Now from second place to fifth place, they get to play a gauntlet match going to the finals. And today's first match is Najin Empire versus Coup Tigers. And we're here welcome with a lot of people in the live crowd. And now we have an interview prepared with Jung No-chul Nofei and Park Jung-suk Reach. Now first, Coup Tigers fourth place finished. Coup Tigers who have Nofei here. Hi, my name is Nofei and I'm the coach for Coup Tigers. How do you feel going into the wild cards? Do you feel nervous? In fact, the players are not really nervous, but I'm feeling really nervous and I'm shaking a little bit right now. Now in the spring season, you were waiting during the finals. Now you have to fight your way through the wild card and the playoff to make it to the finals. How did you prepare for today's match? At first, before we were up against, we tried to hide a lot of our strategies and then maybe, bring them out one by one. But now that I think about it, and especially because the opponent is a really good opponent right now, we feel that one set is very important and we're going to have to do our best every set. And now, we will be talking with Reach Park Jung-suk. Hello, I'm Najin Empire's head coach, Park Jung-suk, Reach.
오늘도 그 기세 그대로인가요?
Now you guys have a lot of momentum going in. Do you think you can bring that momentum and keep it going? We've had a lot of good momentum, but a lot of our players, I'm worried for them because they've been sick, and Duke player has something, in his eye right now, so he actually went to the hospital last night. So I'm a little worried about the welfare of my players.
났다고 하는데 선수들이 오늘도 중요한 경기인 만큼
Now, of course, it's an important match
오늘 경기에
today.
어떤 말을 좀 주로 해주셨나요?
What did you say to your players going into today's match? Yeah, we've actually been criticized for going up and down a lot during the season, and I think I've felt that way as well. And players have had a lot of mistakes during the games, and that have shown in our results. So I think we really focused on trying to reduce our mistakes and try to forget about the past. We can't really do anything about the past. Watch's smite before. We've been talking about it for 3 years about Watch's smite, but we want to look forward and go ahead.
오늘 그와는 됐을지 오늘 경기 기대가 되는데요. 늘 이렇게
Now-
쿠와 나진의 만남은 더욱더 화제가
Now,
되는 것
of course, Ku and Najin's matchup is a very interesting matchup because even the two of you used to be a player-coach relationship. So what do you think about that? Now today, of the players that are going into the booth, and of the 14 total people going into the booth, actually 13 of them used to be part of Najin. And when I was a player, I didn't really listen to Reach a lot, and he used to yell at me a lot. But I didn't like him back then, But now that I'm a coach, now I know why he used to yell at me and what he went through, and I feel a little sorry to him right now. Now, how do you feel, Reach, about that?
저도 이야기한 것처럼 정감도
Like said,
그렇죠. 정감도
Jung coach. Now that we're on the same position, same level, I respect him. I pay him the respect. And thinking about this, going up against Ku, because we know each other so well, it's going to be a hard match for either of us. And I believe, it's really a coach's match today because of that.
그렇다면 쿠타이거즈에서 가장 경계되는
So,
선수가
who's the toughest player you're facing against Ku? For me, Ku, I think or Smep is the hardest player that we have to face today. And I think the only way to win is if we play well today.
그렇다면 나진에서 경계되는
So what about you? Who's the hardest opponent you face right now? For me, I think Watch is the toughest match for us today. And especially he's known for his performance in the fall. So today's match, I think it's up on Watch's shoulders. So that's what we're up against today. And last words going into the match from the coaches, please. Now, we've had a lot of expectations from our fans, but we've been, I think, a little bit disappointing in our results. And regardless of winning or losing today, I think we want to show a good game today, and we're going to try our best today. Thank you. Next, to Reach.
저희도 이제 저희는 승패를 떠나지 않고요.
Of course, we are not irregardless of winning or losing because we have to win. And a lot of teams in the middle of the bracket, the summer season is important as well, but of course Worlds is very important as well for us, and circuit points. And I think if we can make it to finals, we can make it to Worlds for sure. We can secure a spot. And we've had a tough road to Worlds before, but I think this year we want to secure our spot early on and make it to the finals. And players have prepared a lot, so I think we'll have a good game today.
소문처럼 오늘 또 멋진 경기 보여주셨으면 좋겠고요. 다시 한번 인터뷰 함께 해주셔서
And that was Jo and Jung with the interview.
자 이렇게 결승전을 향한 첫
And we are
번째입니다. 쿠타이거즈와 나진 엠파이어
going to have a matchup with Ku Tigers and
판단 시작하겠습니다.
Najin Empire, and we'll send it back to you guys at the desk.
오늘부터 플레이오프가 시작되는데 아직 걸음도 안 뗀 상태이기 때문에 시작 잘했으면 좋겠어요.
저희 기세가 좀 많이 좋기 때문에
저희가 유리할 것 같아요. 이번 시즌에는 저희가 나진과의 경기에서 한 판도 못 이겼거든요. 그래서 많이 아쉬웠었는데 이번에 나진을 잡고 올라가게 되면은 기세를 엄청나게 탈 수 있을 것 같아요.
그래서 연습이 너무 잘 되고 있어서 2대 0으로 이길 자신 있어요.
제가 소드 때 있을 때부터 실드를 아그작 냈거든요. 미드 정글을 파괴해버리고.
항상 프로랑 하면은 이제 서로 좀 치고 받았던 경기가 많았던 것 같아요. 근데 이제 아마 제가 상대 전적은 지금 밀리지만 오늘 이겨서 그 상대 전적을 제가 더 앞서도록 하겠습니다.
제가 요 근래 이렇게까지 긴장을 한 적이 없었는데 그만큼 중요한 경기이기 때문에 꼭 열심히 해서 이기도록 하겠습니다. 스프링 썸머 합쳐서 2대2인데 오늘 한번 승부를 내보자.
Hey guys, welcome to Champion Summer. I'm Doan with me. Oh, it's not Monte Cristo, it's Papa Smithy.
It is
here
indeed.
today. Wow.
We're doing something different, though.
I guess so. Yeah, it's a wild card match. Ku Tigers versus Najin. The winner moves on in the playoffs. The loser goes home. But some interesting stuff that we'll get into later. Monty was just too wimpy to cast 2 different games in the same day. Who knew? Oh well. So here we are, best of 3 to decide. It's kind of a wild card match. Our playoffs are going to be best of 5 later. But for the wild card, it's best of 3. Najin versus Ku. Right now, coming into it, first impressions, really seems like Najin's a stronger team right now, doesn't it?
No, I can't disagree with that at all, Doa. Najin, their end of the season, 4-1 overall, only losing to SKT, and even taking a game off SKT was pretty impressive. Ku Tigers, 2-3, and of course that most recent win against Spenu. Where do you really judge that in terms of their strength? They looked good against Spenu, but I guess we'll find out today what exactly that means when they match up against much harder opposition.
Well, yeah, I mean, looking good against Spenu is like a very different thing from looking good against like an SKT or something like that.
Janair might disagree, Doa.
Well, Janair, looking good against Janair is a much different thing than looking good against Spenu now, apparently, so who knows. But, I mean, where do you start with the Ku Tigers, right? A team that has been so good in one year and so bad in the same year. You and I were talking about this before the match. It really seems like IM Katowice like fundamentally broke something in the Ku Tigers' psyche, and they've never really recovered from it.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing. Of course, they lost to Team Waterley in that massive upset. I mean, Monte Cristo on the casting desk saying it's probably the greatest upset in the history of competitive league, and since then, their fortunes are really, they've struggled. They had a run of form this season, went 9-1 at one point, but otherwise, specifically recently, they've struggled, and unfortunately their struggles have really been highlighted by one specific player, Prey, who, what a start to the year, and then really struggled, specifically with his position, of course, his strong suit in the summer season.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, not much more time left to go to ogn.azubu.tv and vote for your favorite super plays. It's kind of cool. It's a site. Shows a lot of cool plays. It's a neat way to keep up to date with the highlights that have been occurring in this last week of Champions. But you're absolutely right about Prey. I mean, if you could pick out any one player on the Ku Tigers right now that's kind of the cornerstone of their problems, it would be Prey. And I think you made like a really good point when we were talking about this earlier about like about how Prey is doing this year in relation to his career.
I mean, just think about Prey. He's a superstar in the history of Korean League of Legends. This guy burst onto the scene, one of the strongest AD carries when the scene started all the way back in 2012.
Yeah.
But of course, he started to struggle and eventually retired, early 2014, I believe, late 2013.
Yeah.
So he definitely had his highs and then just kind of fell away in terms of being a top competitive AD carry. It feels like 2015's kind of been a microcosm of his whole career. Started off so strong in the spring season, but really struggled this season.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like one of those batteries that like the longer he's around, you can recharge it back to 100%, but it's never going to stay there for quite as long, is it?
That was one split. That was the 100%. And this season, unfortunately, that battery indicator, it's flashing, Doa.
That battery might need changing depending on what happens today, man. Well, here's our MVP rankings. Of course, Someday is the winner of our regular season. Ends it with 1,400, just 100 above Faker, who didn't really look like he wanted to play too much in their last match of the season. and someday also on top of the KDA for the regular season as well. Really, really fantastic summer season for KT Someday.
And look how close the two top laners we're going to see today are. 0.02 difference in KDA between Smeb and Duke. Of course, Duke was our regular season MVP back in spring.
Yeah.
In the jungle, though, now remember, Hojin's only played the 17 games compared to, say, the 40-plus of players like Score and Bengi. But still, massively high KDA for Hojin, and he will be playing today.
Yeah, that's right. And definitely the better jungler right now for the Ku Tigers to go with. Kuro is on top of the KDA, but what an anomaly this guy is. We'll talk about him later, too, but yeah, good KDA at least. And for AD carry, Arrow, of course, very, very high. Bang actually surprisingly dropping a bit after being #1 for basically the entire season.
And we're seeing that KDA may not necessarily represent the best talent at support, though
That's very
Wolf has,
true.
of course, had a wonderful season. Peekaboo
Yeah.
sneaking up there again with a smaller sample size. The KDA in the mid lane, I think, is the biggest anomaly. Look at the top two, Kuro and GBM. Those are not really guys you look at as the big carry players, are they?
Yeah, well, KDA just isn't like the be-all, end-all litmus test of players in League of Legends, and like that type of ranking that we just saw definitely shows that.
Now we're going to have some highlights from last week, and look, if you were watching EasyHoon play Azir, you can have a pretty good idea of what highlights we're going to see.
Man, this was a super play right here. I think I remember when it happened. I was like, all right, there's your Zubu super play of the week right there. Look at that. Knows where to send those Sand Soldiers right at the Living Shadow that Zed's about to go back to, and EasyHoon just really, well, making it look easy until he died. But before that, it looked pretty easy.
And Duke comes in, does some Riven things, but just in general, it's never been a question that EasyHoon, probably the best Azir in this league, and that's in the league with the likes of Coco. Those two probably line ball, but when it comes to the SKT mid laners, there's not many people who can say they play a champion better than Faker, but for Azir, I give it to EasyHoon.
Yeah, I mean, and EasyHoon certainly does have his strengths, and Azir is certainly one of them when you compare it to Faker's. But sadly, you know, just kind of not quite matching up to Faker's talent on the other ones. But in SKT's last match of the season, he certainly looked like the better mid then.
So we're looking at our overall rankings. With Ku Tigers' win over Spenu, they finished 4th. Of course, they were going to be locked into this match today between Ku and Najin regardless. But the significant factor is they will get side choice, and in a best of 3, that could be very relevant.
Yeah, that's right. And so like we said, today is a wild card match between Ku Tigers and Najin EM Fire. It's a best of 3. So to get into the best of 5 playoffs, either Ku or Najin will have to win today. They'll go on to face CJ then on Wednesday. So, oh, good. I was so excited, but I didn't know for sure. Game 3, if we get there, we'll be blind pick, guys. Oh, yeah.
We didn't expect this, though. This is something really fun. It's been a while since we've seen competitive blind pick. And look, Ku Tigers, they definitely are strong enough to pick up 1 game, and then it's all gloves off for the 3rd match.
Dude, I'm so psyched. We could definitely get to Game 3 today. I think we're either going to see 2 different things here. I think the most likely is a 2-0 by Najin, but maybe we'll get a 2-1 by Ku. We'll find out.
Let's be real. The only thing that you're not thinking about is a 2-0 by Ku.
Yes, that's true. I'm not thinking about that. But there is the Ku Tigers, so we might as well think about them a little bit at least. They have lovely sunflowers, I suppose, for summer. There we go.
Going with Hojin in the jungle, we saw his KDA. It's right up there. In general, he also brings the experience. Of course, he already has a finals campaign under his shoulders after playing in the spring campaign. Okay, that wasn't much. It was only 1 match in the playoffs, but still, they're going for experience and the recent form because he's certainly been just a little bit superior to Wisdom.
Well, Hojin is a good jungler, and yeah, definitely the better choice to go with over Wisdom right now, and they're going to need to be him in need to have him be in top form against Najin EM Fire. These guys, it's Worlds time. I don't know how else you explain it. I mean, they've been pretty much pretty bad all year. And here they are, with a real chance to get to Worlds, because with the way that circuit points are lining up right now for the teams that are still in contention to go to Worlds, if Najin gets to the finals, they will guarantee themselves a spot in Worlds, because even if they lose to SKT, they'll still have the most points above everybody else.
And look, it's a well-worn story at this point, though. Whenever there's a gauntlet around Worlds time, Najin, doesn't matter if they're seeded right to the end or at the start, they're going to be a contender, that's for sure.
It's crazy, man. It's absolutely insane. But there are the Ku Tigers, and there is Najin EM Fire, a big squad, but a very tight squad in the summer season. Not really a lot of swapping going on, aside from matches that didn't really matter a whole lot. Duke Watch, Gung, OQ, and Pure. And you and I were talking about the differences between Pure and Gorilla earlier, which is a really interesting thing to talk about. We'll get to later, because right now we're going to talk about our top laners at the moment, identical KDAs.
Yeah, Duke not getting the MVP points this season, but look at the champion pools. Both these guys have pulled out the Riven. That, of course, looms as a really interesting pick coming in today. Duke is probably going to be contesting the Na. And honestly, Smeb, he was known as a Na main. His Na in the spring season was wonderful, but he actually only just picked up his first Na win of this season over Spenu. So it's some recent form, but we're going to move over to the jungle matchup. And Hojin, man, the KDA looks good. He seems to be in sync with his squad after they really seem to prefer Wisdom for large swaths of this season.
Yeah, you gotta start to watch out for Watch, though. I mean, no puns at all intended there, because Elise is back in the meta again. And to be fair, Watch's mechanics, which have always been a problem for him, have gotten a lot better, actually, in the last month or so. I mean, once again, it's Worlds time, guys. I mean, this is natural, right, for a Najin team?
And look, he seemed to have mastery over single champion. That's kind of been his MO. We thought it was the Gragas, but my goodness, his Lee Sin performance in Game 1 against SKT, probably among the best mechanical Lee Sin performances I've ever seen. And we're talking about Watch still in this story.
Yeah, exactly. Who was known for, like, the trap of Lee Sin. You pick it and then you lose because you're not good at it. In the mid lane, it's a little bit interesting. Kuro, he's such a clean-up mid laner. You know, he doesn't necessarily win lane. He hardly ever does, in fact. But he doesn't die. He builds up over time, and then he comes in, positions himself immaculately in team fights, and kills everybody. Gung, on the other hand, having a bit of a hard time. Not so good. Well, the Assassins in general aren't so good right now, and he's not so good at the types of champions that are big in the meta right. The Azir, the Victor. Gung is struggling.
And look, I completely agree with Kuro. Look, he contributes a lot of the kills for the team, but he doesn't take over games in a way like Faker. Now, if we're talking about people that take over games, OQ is one of those players.
Well, Najin wins early. You know, I mean, they win their lanes super hard, and OQ's Lucian has just been an absolute terror in the bottom lane right now, or really any lane he wants to take it to, and Pure helping him out a lot. But these supports are really different. Pure is what I would describe more as a classic support. Stays in lane with his AD carry, tries to make 2v2 plays, doesn't really roam at all, focuses on the team fights a little bit later, whereas Gorilla, all over the map, plays a major vision game. Really interesting to notice how different these two supports' playstyles are.
I completely agree with you. Pure is a laning support, Gorilla is a roaming support that wants to get people like Smeb ahead, but we'll touch on that more as we get on. We've got some sick videos to show you now. Back in spring, it was Ku, and of course, Ku was doing a lot of winning specifically
season then.
in the spring season, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ku Tigers cruised right up to grand finals there, but not so easy in summer, where Najin has the 2-0 in matches over these guys.
And most recently, 3 weeks ago, picking up a 2-1. Ku took game 1, and then Duke unleashed the top lane Olaf, and it kind of all went pear-shaped for Ku Tigers from there.
Yeah, and I mean, OGN knows it too, guys. I mean, Watch being back in the meta is so, or Elise being back in the meta means that Watch is back in the meta, really. And even though his win rate isn't as high, I don't think that's quite the fairest stat to really bring up against Watch.
And look, Watch's Lee Sin is definitely the most misleading stat. Only a 45% career win rate, but this season he's 5-1, 83%, and his mechanics are just so on point. And that's such a crazy thing to say about Watch's Lee Sin. Hojin, he used to be called Lee. He's also associated with the champion, an 80% lifetime victory rate. Pretty damn good.
They're both good at it, that's for sure. And it will be a bit of a contested pick today. I mean, the thing is like, both of these junglers do very well on Lee Sin and Gragas. Now, where's the Elise going to go into this? I feel like you ban it against Najin. We'll see if Hojin really wants to pick it. Obviously, Evelyn's still out there too. You got to wonder really how valuable jungle bans are going to be in this particular series, because it seems like the junglers' pools are pretty deep.
Hojin has been favoring the Eve this season, 7-1, 7.3 KD. Remember, that's 8 games out of a total of 17, so almost 50% of his games this season has been on the Elise, has been on the Evelyn. Will he opt into Evelyn versus Rek'Sai? So maybe Rek'Sai will be kind of a blocker ban at some point.
That's not even mentioning Rek'Sai, which is always strong too. So I feel like you got to target the lanes here. I feel like the jungle is just kind of open season because of how deep these guys' pools are and how deep the good jungler pool is right now. Well, let's see what they pick, as we get into picks and bans for game number 1 between Ku Tigers and Najin Empire here in our wild card match
I'm just
on OGN.
Super excited to see the pocket bans, though. Where does support Kennen fit in all this? Because of all the support Kennen players, Pure, by far the biggest support Kennen player. Remember, Pure, he's a laning support. He's laning with the AD carry, who has the biggest average gold advantage at 10 minutes. He's the hard carry style of AD carry, so he wants to stay in lane, so he picks laning power. And of course, Kennen in 2v2 lane, ranged auto attack, stuns from level 2, very, very powerful laning support. So will Ku look to target it? Because Gorilla, he's been playing it as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really dangerous if you're going to go into 2v2 as the Ku Tigers to give Pure that Kennen, because if you look at Prey and Gorilla right now, yeah, and there's a Kennen ban. Well, weird that it's coming out from Najin, actually.
It's just showing the priority of the pick. And Doa, the weird thing about the AD carry meta in Korea right now is what's the biggest, most contested bot lane? It's Lucian Kennen. It's
Yeah.
the ultimate lane bullying bot lane. It feels like getting early advantages is what the Korean teams have really highly prioritized, and that means that Lucian has been a frequent ban against Najin, or even a takeaway. And Ku, look, Lucian finally came out from Prey in that match against Smenu, and it might even be a first pick here, despite the fact that Lucian doesn't really see a lot of play in a lot of other regions.
It is very high priority. They're going to ban out the Victor, which is definitely Kuro's best champion. So not a big surprise there. I'm wondering where the Azir is going to fall here as well, too, because that should be a pretty contested pick between these teams as well, although we know Gung is fine playing Zed into the Azir, even if the results aren't always good. Maybe Ku can predict that.
Its mid lane bans are plenty, though. Azir actually banned away along with Twisted Fate, Victor, and Yasuo. That's so much of the mid lane champion pool. Kuro's played a lot of different things. He could, of course, default to a champion like Varus, which has fallen out of the meta, but has been very successful for the Ku Tigers. And Kuro's a laner, as you mentioned earlier, he's a wave clear laner. He just wants to be safe, get his core items. He gets a lot of kills, 32% of his team's kills in fights. But with the jungle pool completely open, where will they go? We mentioned that Lucian's rising. Prey, again, he spent actually 2/3 of his season playing only Corki and Sivir.
Yeah.
Showed the Lucian against Spenu, and now it might have risen to first pick territory just to deny it away from OQ.
Wow. You know, I sound surprised when I say wow, but after everything we've talked about, I mean, it really is not a surprise. Shen Elise grabbed immediately. Duke's been playing a lot of Shen lately, and of course, at Elise, a great pickup for Watch, and this is what we were talking about. You remember how I said before we got into picks and bans, I don't think there's going to be any jungle bans, and there weren't, which is something you almost never see, but in this matchup, it makes sense, you know?
Just leaving up Elise on patch. We're on 5.15 today, guys. We have jumped over to the newest patch. Elise hasn't seen any changes. Still super powered like she is on 5.14.
Yep.
Obviously very strong. We've already got a very strong level 1 coming through between Shen and Elise, and just the startings of a pick comp, but still flexible with the first 2 picks from Najin.
Guys, and the biggest thing about 5.15 is Teemo can throw his mushrooms now.
It bounces mushrooms, too.
That's right. So get ready. I'm surprised we haven't seen Teemo picked yet. Forget that Gangplank guy.
Who is available.
Get the Teemo. Yeah, that's right. Gangplank is available. Everyone's available right now, I believe. And Gragas Annie would be pretty reasonable. Yep, they're going to grab that. So get some decent engage. You know, without the Lucian, you know, maybe this will deter OQ from picking something like a Kog'Maw, perhaps.
I mean, Lucian Annie is a very strong laning 2v2 lane. A lot of early power, excellent trading early. Of course, if it's a lane swap situation, Lucian's obviously fine in that, and Annie can roam around with the stun. Very powerful from even level 1 if she's unlocked from the laning phase. So definitely suits Ku. Now, wow, okay.
Oh, all right. Ashe locked in for OQ. That's exciting. I mean, we've seen it pop up quite a bit. Prey himself played Ashe in their last match just a day or 2 ago.
But how risky is it to opt into an early pick Ashe when there's already an Annie for backline threat? There's already backline stun threat coming through from Ku, and they can just add to that with their mid and top lane picks.
Do you think you pick an Olaf here for Smeb, actually?
Olaf is so damn good against Ashe. Ashe is all about keeping her distance.
Yeah.
Olaf pops the ghost, pops Righteous Glory, pops the ultimate. What are you going to do?
It's also more or less an answer to the split push from Shen, too. So I think Olaf may not be a bad choice here.
The other crazy thing, very good against Alistar as well, who is only tanky with percentage damage reduction. True damage does a lot of work there. It was actually Duke who ran the Olaf against Smeb's Rumble.
That's right,
to just dominate. The last time these two teams met, just 3 weeks ago. Has he been practicing it? Because certainly considering his options, they're looking for some aggression in the top lane regardless, although there's some pretty flexible picks between the Fizz and the Lulu.
Well, it is going to be Fizz Lulu, all right. And the question is, which lane are these going to go in? I suppose based on what this mid lane pick for Najin is, who can decide that?
Teleport Ignite does seem to suggest they're at least thinking about going with the Fizz top.
Probably, yeah. But then again, I mean, I suppose they can always flex it. I think you definitely want to put the Fizz top. Lulu top just not quite as good right now.
Just a different pick from Duke. You know, he's played a lot of different champions this season, but he's been very much on the Maokais, the Hekarims, the Rumbles of the world, going completely team-orientated. Look, he hasn't been a damage carry. Smeb has been a damage carry this season, so to him to go so supportive is surprising.
Yeah. We'll see what the last pick ends up being for Najin, what that mid laner is going to be. And they have to try to figure out what it's going to be. Well, Cassiopeia, Gung was okay on Cassiopeia. We'll put it that way. He wasn't fantastic, but he was adequate. And I feel like that really kind of sums up Gung's entire season so far. Hasn't been really spectacular. He has a good game once in a while, but he's been adequate on this Cassiopeia.
He's always been known as a player that hasn't had a massive champion, but of course was a big assassin player when the assassin meta was around, the likes of LeBlanc and Zed, big picks for him. Now you look at the picks and bans, so many mid laners banned away that there wasn't really much left in his pool, so probably had to default to Cassiopeia. Now, of course, the AP itemization changes have done a lot of helpful things to Cassio, but
of course,
if you ever rotate around her lane, take out her turret, she just can be this non-threat. And if you have a pick mid lane, a pick jungler, and a champion like Cassio who can be put behind, sometimes if Cassio falls behind, it can negate even the power of a ganking jungler like Elise.
Do you feel like the Cassiopeia is good or better against the hard engage coming out of Coup?
I mean, the one thing you can say, Cassio with Cleanse can stand next to Ashe and be another peel for the Ashe. There's not that much backline threat. Fizz can potentially hop and skip through a couple of CCs, but it's basically only Annie to lock down the Ashe. And again, if Smeb gets ahead, I guess things can be possible from the top lane, but this is not a crazy amount of engage onto an Ashe.
Yeah, this could be a little bit tough for Coup Tigers to get in there. We'll see if they're able to do it, though. And also, we haven't seen OQ's Ashe yet. We assume it's good, but the question is, what can he do in lane? You know, can he go for like a 2v2 with Pure? You know, are they going to look for that duo bot versus duo bot against Prey and Gorilla, which is a very strong lane as well? I guess all our questions will be answered soon. Game 1, Coup Tigers versus Najee Empire. Let's get in the game. And welcome to Summoner's Rift. Coup Tigers taking on Najee Empire. There we go. The fans are a little bit slow on the uptake, and apparently there's a bunny Fizz skin.
Cottontail Fizz, I believe it's called.
Huh. I didn't even know. He will stab you with carrots.
Stab you with love.
It will hurt, but your eyesight will be great. Unless he stabs you in the eyes with the carrots, then it won't.
Isn't that an old wives' tale, Doa?
I don't know.
Maybe we'll find out.
I mean, I think I ate like a decent amount of carrots when I was a kid. I still needed glasses.
There you go.
So they're definitive proof that carrots
the sample size
don't
of
do
one.
Anything. That's right. What more do you need? Well, I'm really curious to see what OQ is going to be able to do on this Ashe, because if you think about it, you know, lane versus lane, you've got a lot of bullying potential from Ashe, right? You've got volley, and then you've got a lot of all-in potential from the giant crystalline arrow, enchanted crystalline arrow, big arrow, whatever it's called, big old arrow. From the big old arrow.
The big old arrow, the enchanted
right.
crystal arrow, absolutely. To me, Najin's comp has a very cogent identity. They have this big threat in the backline, of course, the utility from Ashe, but the big time damage in the late game. They have Shen for peel. Shen, Alistar, Cassio can all do a great peeling job. Even Elise in the late game with enough CDR. You look down the Coup lineup, though. You know, they started off with the likes of the Lulu, with the rotating picks, and then they've had some backline threat in the Annie. They see the Ashe, and you mentioned champions like Olaf, champions who can really get into the backline. They didn't really commit to their draft either way. They don't really have a massive mid-game spike. They don't really have late-game threats onto Ashe. So if this Coup lineup can't specifically get control around Dragon early, I think they may struggle to deal with what Najin's fielding.
They certainly could. I mean, no doubt that bot lane's going to be pretty deadly. So what comes out of Fizz's ultimate then with this skin?
I don't actually know.
I don't actually know. Is it a giant carrot? Is it a giant bunny? I guess we'll find out.
The carrot on the stick is actually waiting to find out, Doa.
That's right. I guess that's how he lures it in.
So we've ended up with standard lanes, which does favor Coup Tigers. Lucian, Annie, a very strong laning 2v2, but while it favors them on paper, this is not a lane that traditionally stays together. And by that, I mean that Gorilla's style is to pack up and leave very often. He has an average of 77% kill participation compared to, say, Pure, who has an average of 66%. So that's 10% more kill participation because he likes to roam around top specifically and help his laners and junglers out.
Can you do that against OQ and Pure, though? I don't know. It might be a little bit risky to leave Prey alone, especially with how Prey's season's been lately.
Pre-6, it's probably pretty safe, but once the Enchanted Crystal Arrow is available, it is super risky, like you mentioned. It's just been their style, so it's surprising to see so many adaptations by Coup so recently. You know, we didn't see the Lucian until, as we mentioned, that match a couple of days ago, and now it feels like the identities of both bottom lanes have kind of swapped. We have OQ on the utility carry and Prey on the lane dominant champion.
Yeah, I'm curious. Well, Hojin just getting some wards down, and we'll see how aggressive Watch is going to end up being, too. I think he did get spotted by that ward a moment ago. Could come around the long way, though. Yeah, and Okyu and Pure just farming safely for the moment anyway. Oh boy. And I wonder, I think he actually may have avoided that ward.
Yeah, he hasn't been spotted. They have Ignite on the outside,
Uh-oh.
looking for the flash bowl.
Oh, coming in. Gorilla does have that stun charged up on the Annie.
Pure can't be too obvious, that's the issue. So you
Yeah.
already see the back being channeled by Watch. Doesn't look like they're going to find a spot.
Well, they don't really know where Hojin is right now, too. He could be just hiding in the bottom brush for all they know. Ooh, man, with Prey going up, that was a golden opportunity. Here they come. Watch coming down right now. They're not telegraphing. There's a flash. Pulverize. Nice knock-up, double knock-up there. Use Prey. Takes a lot of damage. They force the flash out of Prey. Flash used by Pure.
But that was actually a big miscommunication between Watch and the bottom lane. If you noticed, Headbutt Pole went onto one target. Watch actually stunned up the other. They split aggro. They did not DPS down one target, and that caused them to miss out on the first blood.
Well, I mean, at least having the flash out of the way for the AD carry makes things a little bit less pressure-centric for Ku anyway, but could have gone better. That's for sure.
Look, anything that lets Okyu get through the laning phase easier against a champion who's known to be lane dominant is a big factor for an Ashe in particular.
Goong may be in a little bit of trouble here. Kuro baiting him in quite nicely. Ku running back to the river, and Hojin trying to catch him. He gets a slow, but it looks like it's going to be pretty much just a bit of harassment, and that's all for that mid lane gank.
Didn't want to commit to using the flash. Lulu had a whole minion wave and was just too far away to really impact it. Hasn't taken the Ignite, has the summoner spell Cleanse. So the kill potential, it was pretty minimal.
It's very true.
Surprising to see Smev opt into this Fizz versus Shen matchup. This is something that we see Shy do quite a lot, and we kind of criticize him for.
Doesn't go well for Shy, does it?
No, it doesn't. We're expecting AD Fizz. You know, the Doran Blade as the starting item basically confirms that. Now, you know, Fizz is known to dominate champions like Maokai in the laning phase, but Shen is actually much harder to bully around. His taunt reducing Fizz 50% physical damage is relevant. This is not really a lane where Fizz can get ahead to the point where he has solo kill potential onto Shen. He just has a different item build path, building the likes of the Sunfire Cape. So if you can't dominate the lane, to me it doesn't really justify the pick, but he needed something to get onto the Ashe, and obviously wasn't confident with a champion like Olaf.
Well, that's so puzzling too, because it's not like Olaf is really mechanically difficult to play either. So I'm struggling to find how this Fizz gives you an advantage over what Olaf would give you. But I suppose it is all about what you're comfortable with. Kuro getting a little bit low on mana, getting poked pretty hard by Goong, and Goong is winning this lane, at least in terms of health. Was ahead on CS for a moment, but now it's tied up again.
Feels like Najin have the lane control in a lot of their lanes, and when we're talking about a Shen who's going to have global presence and an Ashe that's just trying to be baby through laning phase, that's a pretty significant factor. Okyu averages the most gold ahead of the opponent at level at 10 minutes into the game. Najin are all about setting up scenarios which allow Okyu to farm up to late game uninterrupted, and so far, even with the mismatch in terms of 2v2, Okyu's getting that, and that's a really big factor for the Ku Tigers.
Yeah. Very true for Ku.
They need to force things, but that's not what they do, though. Ku Tigers are not a team that forces things. Ku Tigers are about grouping up and taking objectives. They have very high average kill participation as the fans. Impressed with the last hitting at turret.
Man, he got every single one of those minions too. That was really impressive actually by Duke under turret. You know, usually you miss a couple of them, but not Duke.
But
you're right about the Ku Tigers though, and the funny thing about them is that of late, the last half of this season or so, it really seems like they struggled doing what won them all their games, basically. Because their early game, like you said, has never really been that strong. They needed that strong mid and late game. They really haven't had it lately at all. Najin, meanwhile, has always had an extremely strong early game, and now they're developing a strong mid and late game. So I feel like it's an especially tough matchup for Ku at this point in time where both of these teams are at right now.
When Ku went on their 8-1 record in the middle of this season, it looked like they'd sorted out a lot of their early game issues. Specifically, you looked to solo queue, they were actually all towards the top of solo queue. Their mechanical play had improved a lot over spring. That was their big weakness. Now, don't see them so much towards the top of solo queue. They've been struggling a lot in the early game. And their late game bastion, you know, things like Juggernaut, which of course they innovated. They ran Juggernaut against Najin 3 weeks ago, and they got smashed.
Yeah.
Specifically, Bray hasn't been able to keep up his positioning, and that was the cornerstone of their late game advantages.
Hojin coming in through the lane brush, lurking, the hitting Gragas, which is really hard to do if you think about it, but he's managing. Just leaves a ward though.
One of the biggest model sizes in the game, but can still hide in that tall grass.
Oh, Smeb taking a lot of damage here. He needs to be careful. Yeah, Duke can just push him out of lane right now. He's got that cowl, so Smeb's just not going to be doing a ton of damage to him. Oh, Gorilla very, very low. Prey blocks some of the damage. Gorilla's going to get out, it looks like. That was very, very close.
His Summoner Heal was drawn away. Prey didn't have his flash. Again, the split aggro on the previous call. That's the culling.
Yeah, Culling Pure taking a lot of damage. Prey comes in. Watches there, though. They can't push ahead too much. I think Prey spotted him. Or was there a ward? Yeah, there was a ward there, too. Okay. Very close call for both teams in the bottom lane.
But you see the awkward factor of this Fizz top has to build damage, and just getting poked out by the base value.
Oh, boy.
Watch.
Watch takes a big chunk out of Hojin there. And now Najin can push up into this Tri-Brush. They need to be really careful. This side about Pulverize on the Gorilla. Oh, Volley will get it. First blood goes to OQ. Teleport coming down for Ku as well, too. Ku trying to make something happen, but Smeb is in a lot of trouble. Goes back in onto OQ. Tries to get to damage. He throws the ult. It is a giant bunny, and it's a giant death for OQ. A kill for Smeb before he goes down, but it looks like in the end, it's going to be an even trade, a double kill for Kuro, the mid laner, just showing up and cleaning up as always. So 3 for 3 on either side, but Kuro getting 2 of those might be pretty big. Prey got 0 of those kills, though. That may also be big.
He is actually still able to stay in lane, so he's going to be able to push the wave as he wants, going to keep up in CS. So really unorganized fight, a lot of different skirmishes happening at the same time. Ends up all even, but as you mentioned, the gold distribution pretty even among the carries for Najin, and mostly in the pocket of the utility mid laner in Kuro on the Ku Tigers.
Yeah, yeah. But Kuro did his job, you know? And we have seen Lulus get ridiculously strong once in a while, but we'll see what happens this game. Let's watch this fight again.
Yeah, so Watch goes in really aggressively. Pure just wants to get that pick. They get the first blood significantly onto OQ, which is a big factor. As the teleports are being channeled at this point, Smeb actually makes a really impressive play. Gets super, super low, but they manage to just chain the damage onto OQ, and of course, no escape, can't get out anywhere. So they get the answering kill into AD carry. Remember, Prey is getting experience, doesn't pick up any kills, but picks up a lot of gold involvement. But very, very sketchy stuff, but an even trade overall.
Yeah. It was a bit messy. Najin certainly overcommitting just a bit. But Smeb, I don't know, would you call that an overcommitment? Because it really took a pretty heroic play from Smeb to pull that back into at least even ground for Ku.
A little bit of an overcommitment. I mean, OQ was basically positioned almost under the enemy turret, but
yeah, pretty much.
They got the first blood onto him. He's picked up the 2 parts of his Infinity Edge. No big concern, really, from Najin.
Same for Prey, I suppose, too, by that token. Has his BF sword and his pickaxe as well.
But when you're 10 CS behind an Ashe as Lucian, that's already a massive victory for OQ. So just the fact that OQ is on even item timings and the same experience, actually ahead in CS, is a big win for Najin here Fire.
Now, if we go late, like if we go to the super late game, how is Ku looking as this turret goes down?
I mean, the damage not that high, though. Trinity Force into Tank Fizz is going to do decent damage, more than Shen, but not massively so. They have a Lulu mid. This Ku Tigers team, as is always with the way with Ku, is looking to control objectives and get the win with, say, a 5th Dragon buff or the Baron.
Well, it's looking pretty unlikely that they're going to do that at this point with Najin taking the first turret and the first Dragon. So that objective game not going too well for Ku so far.
The objective game, as you mentioned now, even if it was, taken on spawn, we're talking about, what, a 42-minute 5th Dragon if Ku was able to pick up all the rest of them uncontested, which is already, as you can imagine, very unlikely. Gorilla's been unlocked. This is what he loves to do. They love to make these forces up top.
Ultimate used by Smeb. He's going to go into Duke. Duke taunting away. He's got a lot of health remaining. No flash, but it looks like it won't be a big problem for Duke at all.
But we learned that it was the Easter Bunny that pops up.
It was. Is it specifically the Easter Bunny or just a giant bunny?
I don't know if the Easter Bunny exists in Summon's Rift, so probably just a bunny.
I don't think the Easter Bunny exists at all. Whoa, arrow goes right through the uprights. 3 points, but that doesn't count in League of Legends. Smeb in a little bit of trouble anyway as Pure comes in, headbutt Pulverize, and there's a kill for Duke. That Fizz just not tanking up right now, and OQ gets there just as Hojin does, so no counterplay available really for Ku. And nice opportunity to take a deep ward as Duke teleports down to bot.
Ku are making the first rotations as they are wont to do, but they're getting answered by Najin. Their mechanics again are off, so it ends up awkwardly coming out to the advantage of Najin. Ku Tigers, they're all about taking advantage early, but not finding any.
That culling did no damage. That was more like the dulling.
Well, he has and that's just with a cloth armor, so it's probably gonna...
Shen's pretty tanky, man.
That's true.
Like ninjas are.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, OQ just decides to annihilate the top turret. And things starting to spiral a bit out of control for the Ku Tigers already as we see the Hawk Shot fly through the enemy jungle all the way to the other side of the map.
You just look down this Ku lineup. What does it do? Of course, you have the Lulu speed buff. It's good about rotating around, picking up those objectives like we mentioned. The fact that they're not picking them up, you wait to the late game point, and look, if the Smeb gets strong enough that he's able to both 1v1 Shen and kill the Ashe in a team fight, sure, but he's behind in CS quite significantly, 33 CS behind already, and it's going to be forced to build tank items. So the one-shot potential onto Oku, specifically when the QSS is completed, is going to be minimal, and after that, look, maybe you can kill him during the Annie burst, but it's very tough to do.
Yeah. I gotta say, Goong's done a pretty good job in this mid lane too of at least kind of holding down the fort, right? He managed to get one kill in that sort of crazy fight that we saw earlier, but he hasn't really let his turret take too much damage, and it seems like that's really what they were counting on. Because like you said, Kuro needs to get his turret knocked down so he can start moving around the map, helping the other lanes take turrets. I feel like Ku's whole plan is just kind of derailed at this point.
And awkwardly, despite the fact that Cassio, Goong's just going to function as another support, another peel for Ashe in team fights, and Ashe is the one who's doing really damn well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Oki doing just fine on this champion, getting even closer to that IE. Although he decided to go Avarice Blade and Berserker's Greaves first, or Berserker's Greaves first, rather. I think it's just because he's far enough ahead. He feels like he can just get a little bit more attack speed.
Yeah, they're basically going to function as snowball items. The Berserker Greaves gives them the flat movement speed to sidestep the fish. It also allows them to rotate between lanes faster. They've already taken out 2 outer turrets, so we're probably going to see OQ rotate between lanes. So the flat movement speed. Honestly, the Infinity Edge one-item power spike was target nerfed, a couple of months ago when the crit chance was removed. So finishing that item first isn't as of higher priority as it is just getting the Berserker Greaves and ensuring that he's always in position. He'll have that combined finish in the next couple of minutes.
That makes sense. And Najin, everybody just going mid right now. And what do you do if you're Ku? Where's he engaged? Look at all the wards that Ku has down right now.
Just look at the pressure.
Jungle.
Duke's got Smeb pushed to his turret. They're pushing in the middle turret. Prey's trying to freeze down bottom lane, but he's on the lane dominant champion. He's the one that's supposed to be making the aggressive rotations.
Yep.
But Ku's game plan, we outlined it, it hasn't come together, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better in the remainder of this game.
Nothing too aggressive about Prey right now, unless you talk about his aggressive retreats from whatever lane he's in.
Yeah, it's awkward for Ku, because it feels like Najin are doing exactly what Ku wanted to do this game and have the superior late game as well. So not much to be excited about if you're a Ku Tigers fan.
Yeah, you have to wonder how this game would have went if Smeb was on something other than Fizz right now, because he just hasn't really had much presence around the map.
I just don't feel like Lulu, which was actually the mid lane picked very late in the draft, was going to be a playmaker. They already saw Ashe. They need to make things happen onto this immobile, high-damage backline threat, and they pick a Lulu to rotate better. It's kind of awkward when there was already a Shen. They were already going to have skirmish disadvantages just because of the fact that Shen almost ever present with his ultimate.
Yeah, you think maybe something like an Orianna would have fit in a little bit better, perhaps.
Yeah, they have some decent ball carriers, not ideal ones, but just anything with some semblance of backline threat, whether it's an assassin or just some sort of range damage. Lulu's, again, about the rotations, and when the rotational game goes sideways, as the first 17 minutes have shown, so does the game plan.
Yeah, I mean, 3K gold lead for Najin right now is pretty nice. We'll see if they can knock down this mid lane turret right before Dragon comes up. At least pushing up the lane is going to be the priority here, and they're going to need to worry about bot lane too. Not top lane, though. That one is going just fine for Najin.
It's always awkward when you're getting out-pressured by a Shen, though, who's always going to be the first person to react. He's winning the trades. Trinity Force has only now been completed, so maybe we'll get a window into the only real true power spike we're going to see from Smeb. But is Trinity Force going to be relevant against Sunfire and basically the complete makings of a Spirit Visage already done by Duke?
I mean, well, if he can get onto OQ, I suppose, but that's the question. Will he be able to? Because both top laners have their teleports up. So when there is a fight near this next dragon, everyone should be able to focus on protecting OQ. And Rift Scuttler goes to Najin as well too. They've got more or less all the pressure they want right now. Inkward certainly helps out too.
So Najin, they have the position on Dragon. This was the objective that Ku had basically drafted for, but so far been definitely in the control of Najin. They've got the picks from Watch as well. He's gone the Cinderhulk Lee Sin, as he always does. Cinderhulk Lee Sin, Cinderhulk Elise, that's what he's all about.
Well, that Dragon's dying really, really fast too. leash back a little bit. They got to stop Hojin from coming in and stealing this, though. Gorilla could come over the wall with the flash, and the Tibbers looks like he's not going to get the position as Najin backs up. What's Ku going to be able to do here? Dragon releashes it, got all its health back again.
Smeb with a really defensive teleport, though. He is there.
Oh, arrow comes in. They hit Kuro. Curl up, triple headbutt, pulverize. There's a volley as well, but Goong is all over. Smeb's all over Goong, rather. A kill for Gorilla comes in. They trade one for each. There goes Smeb. A kill for OQ. Still got a good position in this fight. It looks like Najin's got this one all wrapped up. Another flash pulverize comes in, and that will be the ace. A double kill, triple kill comes in for OQ, and they will get the Dragon out of this too.
But there's just no threat onto OQ. He's free hitting. This is Ashe. This isn't a high mobility backline carry like Prey is on Lucian. Ashe free hitting just lets you know that Ku have made a really big error in this pick ban phase, because if OQ keeps free hitting, it's going to be an easy 1-0 for the Najin EM Fire.
Dude, I think it's already an easy 1-0. Look at this. Let's watch the fight again. Great initiate by OQ. Hits Kuro with that arrow.
Just remember, they've already used the Shen ult. Nobody's peeling for OQ at this point, but Smeb only has a Trinity Force. He's not tanky enough to deal. He dies to just a crit and a volley to the face, and then OQ, he's got nothing to worry about whatsoever.
Yep. Pretty much. I mean,
nice headbutt pulverize from Pure, but just clean up from OQ, and that's all he's required to do.
Well, I mean, Pure, like we said, he's the classic support, right? He plays well in lane, and then he plays well in team fights, and that's what he does. A couple words here and there, but lane 2v2, and then team fight later on. Not really much roaming to speak of, but certainly making the plays on that Alistar. And now that OQ is fed, look at this. He's got the IE done. He's got the static shiv done. No big items done yet for Praise. Pretty close to the Infinity Edge, but even when he gets it, it's still going to be a full item behind OQ.
Yeah, you compare items. We're talking about, what, 2,500 gold worth of completed items difference? This is a complete mismatch, and it's in a matchup that Lucian should have the advantage.
Yeah, well, OQ's like, all right, you'll take away my Lucian. I'm going to take away your Ashe, and I'll show you how to really play this champion.
OQ's clearly been spamming it in solo queue because mechanics are on point, but Ku didn't draft a team that could deal with Ashe. They had that information, though. Remember, they picked their solo lanes after the Ashe was locked in.
Yeah. OQ's done a great job of using that Hawk Shot as well, too, to keep track of where the Ku Tigers are. Looks like they're going to lose this top turret here. Arrow comes in. They hit Prey with it. Where's the engage there? Gorilla gets locked up by the Cocoon. That's going to be a kill. OQ still in good shape. Dodges through the culling, and here comes Goon. Gets jumped on by Smeb, but doesn't help. Smeb getting taken out by Goon. Goodbye, Prey. Getting very, very low, and Hojin trying to escape as well, too. Static Shift chains a bit more damage. Lulu can't keep them alive. Nice flash execute from Duke, and Najin's going to be fine with this. They can probably, do you think they can even go for Baron here?
They're all very healthy, though.
I guess so.
Crazy thing there, Goong and OQ combined for basically no damage in that fight. They were chasing to catch up with the tanks, but the tanks were doing all the work themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and that, again, was a great initiate by the ultimate from OQ. He got Prey that time. OQ's been playing fantastically on this Ashe.
He has, but he hasn't been pressured either in the laning phase or in team fights. We're going to see a replay. Just watch this engage. So the Ashe arrow comes out, and just watch both carries. So Goong hasn't grouped at this point. OQ's doing a little bit of damage in the back line, but not very much. Goong does literally nothing this fight after taking out Fizz, and then the tanks just run rampant, and Prey and Ku are so many items behind that it doesn't matter that both threats from Najin are basically not even contributing.
Yeah, and Fizz is a total non-factor at this point. I mean, he's like, all right, do I ult Goong or OQ? It doesn't matter because he's not going to be able to kill either one. And yeah, things are not going well for Ku there. 9,000 gold down at 22 minutes. This is actually this is turning into one of the most one-sided games I think we've seen all season long.
It's definitely one of the worst case scenarios. When we first heard that this was the matchup, given the recent form, it shouldn't be a big surprise. Another arrow.
He got Kuro. Kuro's just going to go ahead and cleanse out of it, but that's a summoner down, and that arrow does not have a long cooldown. Prey finally gets the first turret of the game for the Ku Tigers down in bot lane, but they're going to lose their mid-tier 2, and they're going to lose their top tier 2 as well.
They have no pressure in any lane, does Ku Tigers. Shen is easily out-trading Fizz. Prey's just split pushing because honestly, even if he grouped, he wasn't really not going to be able to do anything. How are they even going to take out this siege minion? Because Fizz certainly not going to do anything to that minion.
Yeah, it's got Banner of Command on it too. Watch pick that one up.
Culling does a lot of damage.
Just nice block.
Exactly. Pure can just face tank it and then yeah.
Operation Save Private Cannon Minion. They got it. Nobody's taking that thing out anytime soon.
I think this Cannon Minion's about to be promoted, though.
I think so. What would you promote him to? Captain Minion?
Captain Minion.
That's right. Captain Minion was also the name of my punk band in high school. It was a children's CG themed Punk Pan.
Sounds
New
very
movie, I guess.
sounds very lucrative.
Oh yeah, you gotta hit it at the right time, you know. Oh, Kuro gets caught by the cocoon.
The cannon
a little bit
minion
of poke
is
there.
so much damage this time.
I
He's gonna
know.
take it out himself.
He's gonna take out the turret. There it goes. Wow. Cocoon gets the final hit, but that cannon minion is the MVP of that siege right there, and Najin just waltzing in. Nobody's gonna take out this cannon minion.
They're waltzing their way to the best of 5 stage, Joel. We hoped and prayed for a blind pick, but man, we're going to have to see something different in game 2 from Ku. Otherwise, this could be a quick night.
Going into this, we were talking with some of the Korean commentators too, and we're kind of saying, yeah, it could certainly be a 2-0 for Najin with the way things have been going. Arrow goes through again. I love watching OQ play Ashe, by the way. Super bloodthirsty with the arrows. It's got a short cooldown. Why not? Why not do it like this?
OQ's a playmaker. We've seen his vein. We've seen his aggression on every champion. There's a reason that he favors those champions with repositions because he's always putting himself in harm's way.
Yeah.
But what are you putting yourself in harm's way of when Shen is completely dominating your Fizz? Ku have no other real way to do any damage, and he's never even got close to a Flash Tippers on the backline because she's dying just trying to get anywhere near the team fight.
Yeah, I mean, you can see what the Ku Tigers wanted to do this game, but it just seems like they picked themselves into an inferior matchup that is trying to do the same thing that they're trying to do.
I'm not even going to give them that much. I don't
Yeah?
see what they were trying to do in the pick. ban.
Really?
Because you showed the Ashe. You're on the red side, and you got away with showing Ashe before both solo lanes are picked. There's champions like Olaf that we talked about that literally just run crap on Ashe, and she doesn't have any mechanics to deal with an Olaf. He has the Ragnarok just to completely counter her. They went for the Fizz. Okay, some backline threat, but what does Lulu accomplish in this comp? It's so scattered, and that lack of identity put them in a hole that just got amplified with the early game from Najin.
Yeah. Watch getting poked just a little bit by Kuro. Oh, there we go. Flash headbutt pulverized. Pure gets knocked up by that wild growth as well. A little bit of an interesting engage from Najin. Hojin coming in from behind, though. Kuro trying to do something. Smeb gets in the back lines, ults Goong, but Goong flashes over the wall after him. No damage. Oh! Might get taken out by Prey, though. No. Yeah, it looks like he will go down. Double kill, though, for Goong before he gets taken out. And OQ starting to go wild. There goes the arrow. Doesn't hit anybody, but it's still a big team fight win. Kuro the only one making it out, and this is almost certainly going to be another inhibitor for Najni Empire.
4th team fight in a row. Look at OQ's health bar. Very, very healthy. No threats onto him whatsoever. Lulu runs away with her tail between her legs. Looks adorable doing it, but doesn't contribute very much.
Yeah, I mean, I know Lulu tastes purple, but I think this game she's only going to be tasting the bitter, salty tears of defeat.
Exactly. She's very appropriately colored. She's very blue.
Blue, it's true. They're going to leave without taking out the inhibitor. They know a lot of members of KU are coming up, and that's something that we have recently started to see from Najin within the last, I would say, like 1.5 months. Their late game decision making has become much better. Let's take a look at this fight again. Pure, very aggressive engage there.
I know they overly force this engage. They do even group up for a Tibbers, but it doesn't matter when you're 10,000 gold ahead at 24 minutes. They're just members are too tanky. Their items ahead. Goong is able to flash aggressively without vision to kill a Fizz. That's already just some sort of surreal opposite day play happening here in this knockout stage. The arrow misses, but OQ, he spent most of these team fights walking up trying to catch up to his tanks. They're just too busy killing everyone.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's OQ is done well, but it seems like they don't even really need his damage too much. He's very much a utility AD carry this game.
That feel when you're dying to the Cinder Hulk Elise with Banner of Command and the full tank Shen. That's already enough damage to deal with the KU Tigers.
Well, Smeb looking for a pick here, but he's looking for somebody other than Pure, that's for sure. And Hawkshot finds everybody in the jungle.
And you know who we need to single out this particular series and with the recent form of Najin? It's been Duke, and this is a guy who won the MVP last season. But Duke, excellent laning player, not really much chops in the teleport, not really much chops in the late game team fights. He was never good at grouping with his team.
Yeah.
And then they put the training wheels on. 7 games in a row of Maokai this season. And if Maokai does one thing, it's group and engage. It's all about the targeted engages. His teleport's got a lot better. And now he's 4-0-10 on Shen. That's not a champion we would have associated with Duke in the spring season, but he's actually managed to pick up his team play to complement what was already a lane dominant style.
Yeah.
And it brings another dimension to Najin, who now in the late game are looking really damn accomplished.
Yeah, it really is amazing to see just how much this team has improved on nearly every level in the last few months here, and Duke's a big example of that. Like you said, going from someone who can't really use teleport at all to playing Shen, who has those 2 globals to keep in mind. So, yeah, Duke, very, very representative of Najin's improvement over the last few months. They're waiting for this Baron to come up now. Hawkshot, such a useful tool to see if Ku's coming in. They've got wards anyway.
The word on Duke was
wards.
always that his communication was the problem. If that's what they've been target working on, and I can only speculate from all the Maokai and Shen, it's made a world of difference.
Yeah. Hasn't made a worlds of difference, though.
It feels like it, doesn't
That's
it?
the question.
It certainly does seem to feel like it.
It may have.
Najin are playing like a top 3 team in Korea.
They really are. Yeah, it's impressive and a little bit suspicious at the same time. You're like, all right, is this really the real Najin? Turret taken out in mid. They finally get that one. Duke tries to force an engage again. Man, they're getting aggressive. Righteous Glory popped.
Watch for Fizz. Fizz is actually flanking.
Engage onto Hojin. There's the taunt as well, too. Yeah, Kuro and Fizz trying to come in from the side here. There's a kill already. Smeb just can't find an angle. OQ just autoing him over the wall. And Prey on his own again. Oh, that was not a flash headbutt pulverize. That was a flash pulverize where nobody was nearby, but it looks like it doesn't matter. They're going to kill Prey anyway.
Yeah, bye Prey.
It was just it was a swag flash pulverize, right?
It's been a swag victory for Najin EM Fire. They've just completely dominated Ku from the word go, and they made it difficult for themselves with this draft, but they didn't even play to the win conditions of their scattered draft.
Yeah.
And now it's just an exclamation point on an easy victory for Najin.
Yeah. And what is this Fizz supposed to do? One of the questions that will live in infamy for Ku Tigers fans. Both inhibitors taken out, and Najin's going right back up to this Baron. They are really taking no chances at all in this game, and it's smart not to. Again, this is a best of 3 to decide to see if they get to go to the playoffs this week.
And look, you don't want to opt into that third game because it's blind pick. That's already a whole different ball game when it comes to third game. So 2-0, and the first one in particular to open up that chance of not having to deal with the nail biter that is a blind pick. Najin setting themselves up good.
A lot of wards from the Ku Tigers around Baron. So this Baron is a little bit too dangerous for Najin to start right now. They have no sweeping lenses, nothing like that, so they can't clear out any of these wards at the moment anyway.
They just don't need to overforce anything, though. They're in a really great position. They're 13,000 gold ahead.
Teleport coming in. Duke trying to come from the side with the flank. Where's the rest of the team? Taunt hits no one. Arrow hits no one. That engage did not work at all. Those ultimates are down, but will they be able to go back and maybe clear some wards out around Baron?
We'll call that a mulligan. Of course, Shen has another teleport, so it's not such a big factor that they wasted that teleport. You already mentioned the Ash Arrow on a very short cooldown.
Yep.
They don't have the resource to clear vision. They really need to go shop, though, because they're just over-forcing at this point.
Well, that was the thing, is they didn't need to pursue that engage any farther than they did. All they wanted to do was to push Ku back enough to get vision over Baron to start this. Now Ku doesn't know it's being done. Now they know. But can they do anything about this in time? Baron going down very, very quickly. Smeb, they're going to try to steal it. They can't steal it. Fish use onto OQ. OQ in a lot of trouble. Shenok comes in. Can it save him? There's a knock-up. No, it can't. A kill. Pure gets that one, and Najin could be in a little bit of trouble. They're going to turn it around. Do they have enough damage without OQ? Probably do. Prey goes down. Watch all over Hojin right now. They're going to turn onto him. There we go. Taunt comes in. Hojin tries to get over the wall. Can't quite do it. Meanwhile, Goon getting double kills elsewhere on the map. And so, even though they lost OQ, still an easy team fight win, and that will be an easy game win here in our first game of the day for Najin EM Fire. Goon playing exceptionally well on this Cassiopeia, I gotta say. Kuro, I don't know if you want to 1v1 this guy, bro. Whoa, boy, that was really fast.
And look, Najin, they did not need to do what they just did. That was actually something that they would have to watch back and say, okay, that was overly forced. That was a massive minion wave pushing in top. They could have played it safer, but when you're this far ahead, you can make small mistakes like that, and Ku can't do anything to punish.
I guess so. And there it is. Nexus gets taken out as Smeb goes for one last kill on Goong, but can't get it. GG, and Najin with a very, very convincing game 1 over the Ku Tigers.
Ku Tigers, they made this difficult for themselves in Champ Select. I think Nofe is going to have to go back and really adjust some of those notes because the draft was scattered. They didn't respect OQ on Ashe. OQ is the guy. You tailor your comps around when you face Najin because he is their primary carry. And when he free hit on Ashe 4, 5 team fights in a row, that was completely domination from Najin EM Fire.
Well, I don't think there's any other way to describe it, man. That was indeed domination through every single phase of the game, the laning, the vision, the objectives, the team fighting. Najin just looking better than Ku in every conceivable way. So the Ku Tigers, they don't just need to play better in Game 2. It's not just a matter of, oh yeah, well, they just need to do a little bit better in Game 2. They need to rethink everything. They need to be a different team in Game 2.
They need to be. They got smashed on every metric, like you mentioned, and it all started in Champ Select. Let's look for a more cogent identity for them to be picked through. Maybe a mid-game comp. Maybe just go back to the Rumble Corki rotations, because they tried something different, and it was just a bit of a head-scratcher.
Yep, did not work at all. So we will see what Nofe and the rest of the Ku Tigers have planned for our second game. That could be it. I mean, if Najin wins the second game, they move into the playoffs. The KOO Tigers are done for the season, done until the World's qualifiers a little bit later this year. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back with game number 2 of our wild card match on OGN Champions right after this.
Tomorrow
And welcome back to the OGN Champion Summer Wildcard match. And Pure gets the MVP for game number 1. My poor eardrums.
And look, we called this guy the laning support compared to Gorilla's roaming support. And honestly, he ensured that OQ at no point in this game took any damage or any aggro from the likes of Fizz. OQ free hit on Ashe, and you know how that story ends. It ends in a Najin EM Fire victory.
Yeah, man. I mean, really, I don't know what the deal with that Fizz was, because it did absolutely nothing. Well, really, the entirety of KOO Tigers pretty much did absolutely nothing that game. Najin, pretty much raffle stomping.
I think people misunderstand Fizz Top. People didn't understand that against Maokai it's good because Maokai builds Catalyst. He doesn't really get to build resist early. He can get out-traded. The base damages aren't that high. It doesn't mean that he's a tank killer because Shen can build so naturally into tank and resist, and it just out-split push Fizz this whole game.
I just noticed that Smeb did Playful Trickster, which is what allowed OQ's arrow to hit Prey there in that fight. Scumbag Smeb. He's like, I better dodge that ultimate. Oh, sorry, Prey.
And the tanks, the front line was the real MVP. So many fights in a row. It didn't even require OQ and Goong to be relevant, even though this is just Cinder Hulk, Elise, and a full tank Shen. But even this last team fight, you can see how far ahead everything is. Goong's just able to flash after a Fizz, and that's a sign you're probably going to win.
Yeah, I mean, Goong dies in that fight too, which is not the greatest. But hey, who cares at that point? Supporter. He's a supporter. That's right. In Korea, they call that lane the supporter, not support.
They tried to target Goong's champion pool. There was 4 mid lane bans and a mid lane takeaway. He defaulted back to Cassiopeia. Maybe not the biggest meta pick. Maybe he could have gone to a champion like Ahri that is perhaps a little bit more reliable in that situation, but didn't matter.
Do you take away the Elise perhaps from Watch this time? I mean, Najin, no doubt. I feel like they're going to be setting themselves up for a first pick on that one.
I mean,
Hojin's got to picks and bans.
Hojin's got, what, 2 games on the champion? Maybe just ban it away. Like, I don't know if it necessarily fits KOO's style.
I think you do need to ban it away. I think that's probably the best way to go for it, but we will find out. Nofe coming into the booth, and really, I mean, this is sort of a Najin civil war, right? I mean, like we saw in the pregame interview between the coaches, 13 out of the 14 players in this match today were at one time Najin players. Smeb is the only exception.
Well, pretty comfortable to say a Najin victory looks likely in one way or the other, Doa.
Yeah, it's really looking at that way. There's a Yasuo ban against Kuro again. Najin just really not wanting to deal with that, apparently.
And remember, KOO's ace in the hole. KOO's first pick was Lucian, and Lucian was thoroughly outplayed by Ashe in the laning phase. Picking for Prey in particular with your first pick, a player who's been a decent role player this season, but far and away from his carry status of the spring season, is already a bit questionable to me. Let's see another 80 carry ban. Of course, Kalista just banned away as a pretty auto ban. And we continue with the Kennen support bans. No Kennen support today.
The Alistar ban coming in against Pure as well, too, really targeting him. And I wonder, that's going to put it seems like it would put a big priority on the Annie, wouldn't it?
Does seem to. When you look at his champion pool, he was 10-6, now 11-6 on the Alistar. The other most played is Kennen. Only really Annie is left in terms of big power picks for Pure regularly this season. I don't know if we're going to see a first rotation or maybe just something different from Pure.
Wow, the Shen banned out as well. So the Elise still available for that first pick, and I think if you're Najin, you absolutely go for that.
Watch has played a lot of the Elise, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it.
Yep. And I mean, you know that OQ is perfectly comfortable playing Ashe instead of Lucian. It's not a big deal. They do go for the Elise first.
The power of a champion like Elise is that she obviously ganks lanes very well, but she skirmishes very well around Dragon. And KOO Tigers, the only game plan they've had that's been successful this season. Remember, Juggernaut hasn't been working for them. Getting to late game is often very difficult for them because they really struggle in the laning phase. They're all about specifically rotating around objectives like dragons or playing those corky Trinity Force power spike comps and taking down turrets. So if you have such a strong ganking jungler like Elise that can really control that dragon pick, of course can almost solo it from level 3-4 with Spiderling tankings, any advantages to push the KOO Tigers away from dragon control, pretty much at this point in the season for Najin, cements another victory over KOO.
Now this is interesting, because Najin in the first game banned Yasuo, Kennen, Victor. This time they banned Yasuo, Kennen, Azir, so it does leave that Victor open. For the Ku Tigers, I suppose they're probably wanting to leave that open for themselves in case the Elise was banned out. Does that sound logical to you?
Does sound logical. It's a big price to pay just because Kuro 8-2, of course, was undefeated on Victor until very late in the season. But the second pick they give away is Delusion, which, and again, Prey, excellent Corki player, excellent Sivir player. Now Sivir has seen, the weight of nerfs at this point, especially with the 515 ultimate nerf. Now maybe pushing her out of competitive viability. They could have just gone for a different champion and just left the Corki up for a later rotation. Maybe just pick the jungler because, of course, don't have to worry about anything in that regard. But instead, they really prioritize this Lucian. And Ashe is still available. And in general, Ku Tigers, they're not a 2v2 lane-dominant team.
And later on in team fights, it just doesn't seem like Prey is up to the mechanics that Illusion requires right now. The Gnar pick would be pretty logical coming in. And an early pick TF, that would be a bit surprising. They're going to go for it. Wow, picking the solo lanes very early this time.
So ban Yasuo, one of the best laning counters to TF, but early picking it is super risky. Now, of course, he knows he's going to be against Victor, so the matchup's just fine. They both have good line wave clear, but this is what Najin did last game. They early picked the Ashe, and they said, okay, Ku, what are you going to pick to punish this pick? And the Ku Tigers had no answer. Now we have another squishy, usually backline mage. Will Ku Tigers finally pick some backline threat? Because that's not their MO. Remember, they're a rumble, rotate comp, not really a dive the backline kind of team.
By picking this Gnar early, though, it does kind of rule out the rumble to a certain extent. So I do get that. So, I mean, these picks do make sense. We'll see what Ku can do to try to, to try to counter it. Now, Annie actually falling pretty far down the draft, surprisingly.
I really do like backline threat against a squishy champion like TF. We're probably going to see some semblance of hyper carry from OQ, so...
Ooh, Maokai? Really? Really?
Malphite.
Malphite? That's what I meant. Mal something. Malphite.
Wow.
Locked in. That's going to be a Malphite top.
And this is the opposite of what we expect from Svev. We expect him on the lane dominating champions like the Riven. Of course, Malphite can go even in many, many lanes, but... This is our first Malphite of the season as far as I know. It might actually force OQ away from a champion like Vayne. Now, with the Twisted Fate blind pick, remember, Twisted Fate, one of the best champions to deal with Vayne in a team fight because of the Destiny reveal. So it would have been safe to go for the Vayne, if not for a champion like Malphite. Suddenly now, you're biting off a lot if you choose any champion without an escape.
Well, Malphite does create a lot of danger for an Ashe to be played. So I do see it as sort of a counter to that. That makes a lot of sense with the ultimate and with Alistar already being banned. If you pick Corki, who can get away with Valkyrie, and you pick a disengaged support like Nami, it could certainly handle it.
Flashing the Soraka. Don't think we're going to see a Soraka.
Corki, Annie seems good. Yeah, okay, they're going to lock that one in.
You see Malphite, a champion that loves to stack armor, and you pick an all magic damage comp, apparently, if you're Najin the Empire.
Yep, it makes sense. And what's the AD carry, or not the AD carry, what's the jungler presumably going to be? Probably Rek'Sai. Yeah, can you think of a reason to pick something other than Rek'Sai here?
I'm just not inspired by any of the options, really. What does Malphite contribute to this team comp? The laning phase is going to be fine, of course, can stack armor against Gnar. Gnar, we might actually see Duke. I believe, was it Duke that actually debuted the Blade the Ruin King top? No, it might have actually been Duke, from memory.
It might have been. I'm not going to commit because I can't remember for sure, but it might have been. Either way, that is something that you could see. And what about a lane swap from Najin?
Yeah, lane swap will be fine. Malphite, again, he can navigate most situations, but just a melee champion last hitting at turret. It is going to be Rek'Sai. I wouldn't be surprised to see the W max, because W does magic damage, so you can just free auto attack the melee ranged Malphite and do that magic damage, stop him from itemizing into the armor early at least. Ku Tigers, lots of backline threat with the Malphite, but nothing that really synergizes with that, because remember, Victor kind of has to flash to get in range of the backline, because he's just normally that medium to short range mage.
I feel like it's going to be very hard for Gorilla to not get blown up by Goong later on in the game, and we know how good Goong's TF can be, so it might be a little bit tough for Ku Tigers. But you gotta wonder if Smeb can make big plays on this Malphite, if he can get a lot of knockups with that ultimate, see things turn around.
I feel like it's definitely going to follow a similar kind of pace as the last game. If Ku Tigers can this time get the control around Dragon, force Najin to be face-checking the likes of a Malphite, sure, there could be a win for Kus. They still need to focus on controlling the Dragon objective, and that's difficult when you've got powerful ganking champions like Twisted Fate, Elise, and Anada gank for. There is a lot of strong pressure from Najin early, but the laning phases might be a struggle.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, just mechanically, Najin has been better lately, so it seems like they've got the edge on paper going into it. But once you get on the Rift, it's all up to the players themselves. Najin looking for the 2-0, a strong showing to move into the playoffs, into their match theoretically against CJ if they can take it. Let's see though if KOO can tie things up. It's time to get in the game. All right, welcome once again. The Summoner's Rift, the KOO Tigers fighting for their lives against Najin. KOO Tigers, a loss here would mean the end of their season. They'll be back for the Worlds qualifiers, but summer season would be over for the KOO Tigers if Najin get their second win here in this game.
And our big question is, what's the story with the Malphite?
Yeah, what's the plan with the Malphite? Mecha Malphite, it's a cool skin, not as cool as Glacial Malphite because your hand is a sword, but this one's okay too.
What will this Malphite contribute? Malphite's a pretty linear champion, all about the ultimate, that unstoppable force.
Oh yeah.
Getting onto the backline. That's why OQ couldn't go for the Vayne, couldn't go for the Ashe. You need something with that instant reposition and, of course, the Flash to be safe against a Malphite.
True.
My question is, Malphite gets in there, maybe Hojin flashes in for the Flash on Burrow. Where does the damage come from? Because Kuro, mostly going to be comfortable doing damage from range. Lucian going to do some decent bursts, but you can't really skip through this front line from Najin either. So,
well, if it's like all of my solo Q games, that Malphite's just going to go straight up AP, and then he's just going to blow people up.
He has 7 AP. That's probably from Runes and Masteries, though. So I don't mean to dash your hopes. It could, of course, be Haunting Guys.
Don't dash my hopes.
It's a Ruby Crystal, so it could be Haunting Guys. There is some benefit to going early Magic Pen, but against a Nah, you're going to be really eating a lot of auto attacks, so it's unlikely.
Oh, my hopes are dashed. How dare you?
Sorry.
Looks like no lane swaps for these teams. A Krug start for Hojin. And, or Gromp start, rather. Krug start for Watch. Can't mix up your Gromps and Krugs, you know.
So Prey goes for the lane freeze, then finds out it's just standard 2v2 action. Gorilla's on a trademark champion, but another champion that really requires him to sit in lane and peel for Prey. And a lot of the success KOO has had this season is when Gorilla specifically has been unleashed. Remember, we mentioned the statistic has a 10% higher average kill participation. Man, those trades from Prey, they're really chunking out Pure.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, they're trying to do something to push this lane back, I suppose, and Prey, you know, doing his best OQ impression with this solution right now, but can you really do an OQ impression in front of OQ himself and expect it to turn out well?
I mean, at some point, you have to think that Prey's denying the Lucian away from OQ. He's 8-3, he's been dominant on this champion.
Wow, and Prey just takes a ton of damage right there, too. So just like that, Life Total's brought back up to even for both of these duos.
I mean, the trades are very bursty, but of course, Pure's going to do a lot more damage in lane. Okay.
Oh, Dongjun, the caster, and he's casting into, I will assume, what is a carrot? Right, because of the fizz pick?
Could have been a microphone, I guess, but...
Could have been. Could have, yeah. Either a microphone or carrot. Definitely one of those things.
Carrot on a stick, one way or the other.
Go with those. All right, well.
Waiting to see the junglers. Actually, they're going to meet on the minimap.
Yep. Watch going into Hojin. He does have that early dueling advantage. The Rift Sculler taking the opportunity to get away.
The coward.
Go, Rift Sculler, go!
The Rift Coward doing his thing.
That's true. But you got to root for the underdog, you know, or the undercrab, I guess.
So you're rooting for the KOO Tigers?
No, I just meant the Rift Sculler.
That's bad.
It is sad, though, to see the KOO Tigers doing like this. Wow, Goon takes a lot of damage. Got to be careful, though. Here comes the jungler. Goon, can you get the gold card off? Not quite. Got to be careful, too. That's a lot of damage. Remember, they don't know where Hojin is right now. Well, now they do, but...
Kuro doesn't have Ignite, so he can be a little bit tricky, but as you mentioned, being a bit overconfident with his life total.
Yeah.
Nah has put a second point into Q, so it won't be the W max from Duke this time out. You're probably expecting Magic Resist stacking from Smeb anyway, given the fact it's at least Twisted Fate, Corkiani, almost exclusively magic damage, especially in the early game.
Yeah, I mean, but you mentioned earlier, too, with a Malphite, you really want to be building that armor, because he benefits so much more from that, but Smeb might not get a whole lot of use out of that this game.
You definitely want to prioritize it where you can. It's just obviously not really a viable decision when you see magic damage stacked to the extent that Najin is here.
I'm trying to think if we saw any other Malphites this season. I don't think we have. If we did, it was probably at support or something.
I'm almost certain this is our first Malphite.
Yeah.
champion that's been out of the meta for a very long time. Players like Wicked like to try and work it in with his Trinity Force builds once upon a time.
I'm just thinking like the spring season, like, yeah, Tucson probably played it at support at some point. He played pretty much every champion at support in the spring season.
I mean, between the LPL and champions, basically every champion is in competitive play. There was even a Garen at one point.
There was even a Quinn.
That's true. Quinn and Garen, both represented.
But both in China.
They do it differently over there, Doa.
They do indeed. Do you miss it?
You know, sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose. I see some of those games sometimes like, wow, that's a bloodthirsty region over there.
That's a play-by-play caster's dream.
I get a bit envious, I'm not going to lie.
Some of those team fights, good fun.
Then again, I'm like, but I have Faker in my region. Then I feel better.
That was the only trump card at the start of the season, but hasn't it been nice to see the growth of, the return of a player like Prey that, was a bit of a heartwarming story in spring, and now we see the rise of players like Duke. The level of talent in terms of star names certainly wasn't there at the start of the year, but now new stars have risen as we come towards playoffs.
I mean, that's what Korea does in esports, right? They know how to produce stars. I mean, they've done it in multiple games for well over a decade now, and the Chinese exodus certainly did set things back a little bit, but it seems like Korea's recovering quite quickly and quite nicely.
We're in a world where EDG might not even make it to Worlds.
Yeah, EDG, just shortly before this broadcast, 3-0'd by LGT.
It's a crazy world we live in.
It is crazy. We have stuff like top Fizz picks that make no sense, and now there's a Malphite.
I mean, Fizz top picks that made no sense was purely an LPL thing until someone like Shy came along and decided he was going to pick Fizz every game, and now
Shy really did bring it into Korea, didn't he?
Yeah, Smeb.
3 games in a row there.
Don't know what to say about the Fizz pick in the first game. Certainly done a number on by Shand.
I can think of a lot of things to say about it.
Maybe not broadcast.
No, I don't think so. Well, Smeb pushed back in lane a little bit here, but still managing to keep up in CS more or less.
He's just going to free hit. It's a range versus melee matchup. You know how this goes. You could sub in Teemo or any other annoying top lane range champion. Spray takes a lot of burst.
He does indeed. There's a knockup from Gorilla, though. OQ needs to be careful himself as well. Trade ends up being pretty even, maybe even slightly over to the Ku side.
It's just much more reliable to harass with the Lucian Q than it is with the slow-moving Phosphorus Bomb from Corki.
Yep. Used to be a much faster ability.
It was instant at one point.
Yep, doesn't get much faster than that.
Nope. It's a reason why Annie's so popular. Instant cast spells, whether they have CC effects or just burst damage, always a priority.
It is pretty nice. So some of the wards are discovered by Watch there in the river, so Najin knows that that's not going to be an approach they can really go for, and it really looks like Ku is doing a better job in Game 2 of at least keeping things competitive.
Things were pretty even the very early game last time. It was just the first Dragon fight that really decided the game. When the comp that was built for Dragon Control missed out on it, it just snowballed further and further in the advantage of Najin. So we will be happy with the fact that it's been a quiet early game. They're against Twisted Fate at least, which has a lot of pick pressure. I mean, the Destiny's only been achieved, but if that burst Destiny specifically doesn't get Najin any sort of advantage, that's definitely a pass mark for Ku in the early game.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the crucial moment here is can they get Goong rolling? Annie coming in the bottom lane again, waiting for OQ to get back after going back and picking up that Phage. So going for the Phage first instead of the Sheen, what do you think about that? Just wants a little bit more health, I suppose, a little bit more speed in this matchup. Makes sense.
It's the safer choice. You also have to worry about the potential of the Unstoppable Force and Malphite teleport ganks come in. Sheen is definitely the trading option, and Phage, it's the safe defensive option. And in general, the laning phase has been going towards Prey, so need to be defensive when in effect, you opted into a lane counter. Lucian definitely wins the laning phase 2v2 against a Corki.
Whoa! That Malphite skin burrows underground when it recalls. That's awesome, man.
Mecha Malphite.
You know, I own that skin, but I don't think I've ever actually played a game with it, which is sad because I used to play a ton of Malphite.
It's not been a popular pick. Solo queue, competitive play is certainly fallen away. One of those old champions that, look, he still does the one thing he does well. He still initiates well. It's just question marks on what he really contributes outside of slowing attack speed and a big ultimate.
It's just Alistar does what he does all the time, and Malphite can only do it once every couple minutes.
It's true. Alistar has about an 11-second cooldown on his Unstoppable Force, and Malphite has a 90-second one. That's not really fair.
Pretty much. I used to play a lot of jungle Malphite, actually. That's where I was playing him the most. Way back when.
Good old
Season
days.
3.
What were you jungling against back in those days? An Udyr? A Warwick?
Dude, it was like a lot of Shaco and Master Yi because I was still playing on Korea. But mostly a lot of Shaco. Some Fiddlesticks back then.
How times change.
Lee Sin. That's true. Well, Lee Sin is always around, but everything else, yeah. pretty different.
No team has really exerted a lot of control around Dragon just yet. Pretty neutral warding from both sides, although a pink sticking from Watch so far.
Duke's about to go Mega Gnar, decides to hold off, stay back. He knows there might be a fighter on Dragon pretty soon. The fact that he's Mega Gnar right now may actually cause a little bit of a problem for Najin.
I mean, there's no pink wards in the area. The sweepers aren't available. Like, no one's actually posturing towards taking the Dragon. So, although that might usually be a window, not one that either team is looking to take advantage of just yet.
Ah, okay. Well, Watch coming down to the bot lane. So are a few members of the Ku Tigers, though. Looks like they were thinking about maybe going for a dive, but not going to find that opportunity.
And Watch was spotted with the Tremor Sense.
Yep.
Surprisingly quiet laning phase when we're talking about Elise versus Rek'Sai in terms of jungle pressure.
Or a game with Okyu in it.
True. I mean, Okyu's been, you know, actually behind Prey. Prey, to his credit, has been winning this laning phase.
Yeah.
He had the preferential matchup and wasn't able to win Lucian versus Ashe, but this time around, certainly doing his thing. Not a landslide lead by any means, but...
Well, there we go. Stun down onto Prey, trying to get away. Another stun comes in from Annie, and that's first blood going to Okyu. Very nice. Got the gold card in on him. Then he got the stun from the Annie Q, I believe it was.
And the first Destiny Doa looks like it's probably going to be Dragon as well, although at least looks to be relieving pressure instead.
Goon,
has to cancel the teleport, okay.
Yeah, well, that gravity field went down right on the turret, so he didn't want to end up back in that. And Najin has to come up to save their mid lane instead of go for the Dragon. Wow, Smev is really low right now.
It was good map movement by Hojin and Kuro. As you mentioned, the gravity field was put down, and that was the equivalent of teleporting into top lane when you're under-leveled and getting dived instantly. He would have been dived and killed. This is Twisted Fate. We're talking about some of the lowest base stats in the game. So crucially, his turret doesn't go down, but it comes damn close.
And that little move right there actually saved Ku Tigers from losing that first Dragon to Najin, I think.
Hojin's coming in.
Coming from behind. Duke in a lot of trouble here. Oh boy, what does Duke do? Tries to get away here. There's the shield, but there's no way he's escaping out of this. Nope, there's a kill. Going over to Hojin, he was just pushed up way too far.
But of course, that with Gorilla specifically being seen on the top side, even though Kuro is able to poke out going, it should be the first Dragon to Najin.
Yeah, it looks that way. I don't think Prey can stop this. Not 1v4.
Be careful with the leash. Definitely don't want to releash at this point.
I think that's a pretty good trade then. Trading Duke for the first Dragon. I'd be happy with that.
Crucially, they haven't lost that mid lane turret. If TF loses mid lane turret, even if it was as a receipt for a successful first use of Destiny, it's just not an effective trade.
Yeah.
We've seen so many times, Faker in particular on this Victor, take down the enemy out of turret, just use that Q movement speed to rotate between lanes, and even though TF's able to instantly respond to ganks, Victor, quick enough to make his way between lanes and become an impact. So keep him anchored into that lane at any cost.
Well, we've seen what a big problem it causes for TF when that mid turret goes down early. And so far, Najin's been able to sustain that, and they've got a tiny little gold lead out of it, too.
It's going to be the standard split push build coming through from Goon. We see a lot of players actually most recently dropping off the CDR boots and just prioritizing Lichbane and Sheen over anything else. Gives a bit more wave clear of the ability power.
Yeah.
The mana coming through from the Sheen also means that if you're blue buffs contested, which often is the case when you're a champion like Twisted Fate, who doesn't really skirmish that well in a 2v2 sense. So, you know, it gives him some laning stats. He just tries to stay competitive in mid.
So would you say Gnar would be able to have a pretty effective split push against Malphite as well? I think we've got kind of a 1-3-1 coming in for Najin.
I mean, it comes to the point where you get enough items that you can kind of ignore the trade damages coming through as Hojin.
Oh, that's a lot of damage onto Hojin. Wow, Watch just all over him. He's got to be careful, though. Here comes Kuro. Watch actually think about flashing Eureka calls. And there we go, bringing Tibbers in. There's a gold card onto Kuro. Teleport coming down for the Ku Tigers. Gorilla ults pushing people away. Watch taking some damage from the Chaos Storm. Can Najin catch up? Whoa! Smev comes back in with the Unstoppable Force, and there's a kill for Kuro. Man, Najin walked right into the choke. And Ku turning and grabbing a couple kills. I cannot believe they forgot Malphite's ultimate existed.
That's a massive mistake from Najin. Why are they face-checking a Malphite and a Victor who could just lay down AoE? It was a beautiful layering of damage. They had no vision in that area, no reason to. What was the incentive? They weren't going to pick up kills. No one was super low.
That's the thing about Malphite right now. The reason he's not played is because he's only good if the other team makes a mistake. And man, what a mistake this Najin team makes right here. Look at this. Oh, come on, guys. We can catch him. Uh-oh, wait a second. Malphite has a huge ultimate that knocks everybody out.
So there was a ward in that bush that timed out just as this fight happened, but why are they not respecting the initiation potential of a Malphite? Okay, you don't play against this champion much, but if you remember one thing about Malphite, It's the rocky exterior and the ultimate. There's nothing else significant about that champion.
Well, Goon teleports up to top lane. They're going to try to dive Smeb here. Pure Zero should be an easy kill. Yep, they will get it. Duke takes a little bit of turret damage, so there's a nice response by Najin, but they played so carefully in game number 1. And now we see something like this. That's not a mistake that Najin can make too many times unless they want to play a blind pick game 3.
They just have players who are aggressive, though. They have players who play well with confidence. The likes of OQ and Duke like to have their tails up. They're sort of people that pop up their collars and try to be, that kind of person. And look, sometimes they pay for it.
Do you want to really be that type of person that pops their collar?
I don't
there
know.
goes mid turret. I don't think I want to be that type of person.
Some people get away with it.
I don't know. All right, Kuro takes up the mid lane turret, and that will, like we said, make it a bit more difficult for Goon to try to find ways to make plays on the map. At least they get the tier 1 up in top as well, too. So turrets are even between these teams. Gold is dead even right now. And that slight dragon advantage still going to Najin the Empire.
Some big item timings coming in. OQ just now finishes his Trinity Force in the Vamp Scepter. So big power spike coming through from the Corki, the well-known Trinity Force power spike. We'll see if he probably just going to stay around the bottom lane and try and push in this outer turret. If they can get it down, they'll get a bit more dragon control. They already have the first dragon again. Ku have picked a comp that really wants to strive to control dragon, but it's been all Najin so far.
So now I feel like we're at another really crucial point in this game, where Najin, they kind of need to either take this dragon or win a team fight around it,
It's what Najin's looking to do. Ku just needs to start answering, though. They've won a couple of skirmishes, but they're just trying to play around the Twisted Fate. Oh, to a big extent. They just want a
good rotation to mid. They'll get this turret.
Yeah, they're making the direct play. They have the inside line, and everyone else is slow to react from Najin.
Yeah, well, they've got Smeb there as well. Looks like there might be a flank coming in. Duke coming down, but no, I don't think that's going to work. Duke going back up to the top lane already. Neither top laner is going to have teleport by the time the dragon comes up, I think. It's going to be really close.
Because Smeb walked down, doesn't have teleport as you mentioned, they are able to get in the aggressive vision, clear out the pink wards, and just set themselves up for this second dragon. Ku really need it, because again, their late game damage, it's purely Kuro and Prey, and you think they're going to be outclassing the damage just because of the fact that there's incidental damage from all 5 members on the Najin side.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to be able to take this one. I'm also really wondering if the TPs are going to be up. Looks like the TPs actually might come up a little bit before Dragon Will for both top laners.
It's about a 4-minute timer if they teleported onto a turret, so it's about a minute, so I imagine they'll be about 20 to 30 seconds behind. So expecting some people to group. It's usually the first team to send down their members and put down their wards is the team that gets the advantage. Of course, Scuttle Crab was cleared out at the right time, so there will be guaranteed vision from Ku Tigers around the Dragon area.
20 seconds now until that Dragon. Smeb pushing back the top lane as Duke signals that he's going to go up there and clear. Yeah, the teleports will be after the Dragon, that's true.
Goon hasn't committed to split push or team fight. Remember, he has an slide rod, so it could still be the Zhonya's rush after the Sheen for some semblance of backline threat. It is Kuro on the Victor with Cleanse, so he's hard to lock down against Lucian, who has a dash, so...
Yeah, but if you can catch Prey or you can catch Gorilla, you're still going to be in pretty good shape. Gorilla's Janna is probably the best Janna in Korea.
I mean, the only way that Najin really struggle in the late game is if they give Ku the ascendancy around Dragons. And maybe opting into a team fight build from TF is the right move.
All right, here we come. Duke actually pretty close to Mega Gnar. Dragon getting lower. Pure looking for an angle to drop that Tibbers down. He's going to do it right about now. And the Dragon actually goes over to the Ku Tigers. Will Najin win the fight, though? Pure gets taken out immediately. Duke not Mega Gnar yet. There he is. Can he get the back line? So it doesn't look like it. Looks like Ku are going to get away.
And 2 fights in a row. Najin have been really dodgy at communicating around fights.
Yeah.
Firstly, face-checking a Malphite. Now this fight, beautiful flash tippers from Pure, but no one was on the same wavelength. They don't commit with him, and Annie just dies for free.
Yeah, the Mega Gnar was a bit late for Duke. I feel like if that would have been a little bit quicker, they could have had a big team fight, but it was a big team fight for the Ku Tigers. They've been able to get a decent lead here in gold and actually tie things up in Dragons. Will they lose their turret, though?
Thing is, though, you have that information, it's clear, whether it's the visual indicator of Nars Rage Bar or just the comms.
Yeah.
Pure should not be flash Tibbersing if the rest of the team's not ready for it.
Certainly not.
Not sure where the communication problems have started, just because they were so clean in game 1.
It's because they had OQ initiating with the arrow.
That's
why.
true.
When OQ wants to fight, he fights.
You can't have OQ moments if you get to decide when every fight starts.
It's true. Speaking of OQ, he's got his Trinity Force done now. So he's pretty close to that power spike. I just wonder what Goon's going to get here. I feel like the Zhonya's would be a good way to go if Najin wants to try to fight their way to a lead here.
He's been sitting on these item timings for a long time. Fun thing about Twisted Fate as a champion is that you get a window into his team's playstyle by what he commits to as his first finished item. If he gets the Zhonya's, it's team fight time. If it's Lich Bane, let's just keep split pushing. So we're very close to finding out exactly where Najin see their power for the next 10 minutes or so.
Pretty much.
Not rushing to shop, though.
Yeah, so far, though, just kind of pushing up all the lanes. Taking it easy here.
Awkwardly, Corki hasn't got the outer turret despite having the Trinity Force for a long time. Doesn't have the ward coverage to even feel safe in trying to DPS it down. So just going to back away. Always awkward when Corki's anchored into a lane despite having such a big power spike with the Trinity Force in particular.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. Looks like he's going to go for actually Cutlass before Boots, too.
Interesting.
Huh.
Usually, Blade of the Ruined King's a favorite pickup by a lot of AD carries, specifically when you're dealing with melee carries. And with the Rek'Sai and the Malphite, it makes some semblance of sense. Although, how important is the Blade of the Ruined King active against a Malphite? Kind of debatable.
Sure.
Steal back the movement speed he steals from you.
Yeah, that's right. Take it back. And that turret's getting taken out. Tigers with a turret lead now.
The answer comes through from Goong. They're looking to team fight.
Yep, he's got the Zhonya's Hourglass, just finished that one. Can they find those team fights they're looking for, though? It's been very, very iffy so far.
I mean, their communication needs to be a lot better, though. Once they've committed to this Zhonya's, they're looking for backline threat, and that requires Duke to be on point with his Rage Bar to just assist with Goong, because there's Cleanse onto Kuro. It's already hard to lock down Lucian in the backline. They, of course, have Janna for Peel. There's split-second timing windows that Najin needs to take advantage of to justify this item buy. Otherwise, it might just be a poor investment in gold.
All right, finally, that bottom turret goes down in favor of Najin. Able to tie that up at least and get some sort of vision with their opponent's jungle here.
Najin's going to keep pushing.
Yeah, they are.
Gorilla's the only one responding, and he has no real wave clear.
Good damage onto this turret here, too. Gorilla with a nice shield to at least keep it safe for now.
Not a lot of damage in the end. 2 pink wards invested around.
Oh, Rek'Sai coming in. Pure could be caught here, and Najin can't save him. Pure just completely caught in the enemy jungle. Not the wisest place to path back through, it looks like. Didn't even get any wards down.
But they drew out a teleport with no other objective to pick up. They've already taken out both outer turrets in the bottom side of the map. So that's a big investment, and it will leave them in kind of a mismatched situation where Duke's already had the pushing advantage over Smeb, but now Smeb can't even just park himself in top and try and dissuade Duke from just taking all the outer turrets. It's a window. It's the first window Najin's been granted to take advantage of. So we'll see if they can spend the next couple of minutes prepping these waves around top. Because look, they're sending Lucian to answer the Gnar split push. Dragon's up in a minute 40, and Smeb has to stay grouped with his team if they're going to fight for that objective.
Yeah, pretty much.
For any other significant item buys, watch. Definitely not had a lot of economy this game. Behind in CS, no kill involvement, firing his own death. Doesn't have the Aegis. Just now finished up. That could be significant because Smeb, he's got the Abyssal Scepter. Now you're countering the 20 magic penetration with that aura, and specifically, Smeb's probably not going to build any more damages. So getting rid of those high base damages stops the Malphite burst from being just as significant a factor as it was in that first team fight around Dragon.
Yeah. That's very true. So it's going to be really dependent on Smeb getting the knock-up with the ultimate, right? He needs to have a good initiation. And I feel like Najin really learned, they should have learned their lesson in that first team fight. We'll see if they have or not. But when they walked into that brush and had a couple people get knocked up, I think that was maybe a bit of a wake-up call to Najin.
It just feels like one of the reasons we haven't seen a lot of Malphite in the last couple of years is that because he's so linear as a champion, he does one thing, and he does a very simple thing.
Does it feel like it's fair to say it requires the other team to make a mistake?
I think so, just because you know the Unstoppable Force range. You even know how to account for Flash Unstoppable Force. You get a feel for exactly where you can position and where you can't. So if you have all that information, Malphite shouldn't be a threat. It requires you to make a misplay, as you mentioned, specifically around vision. And Ku don't have a stranglehold in this game to get exclusive vision around Dragons. So Najin, specifically with Destiny, right, they can just pop that whenever there's a something
Oh, man.
to check, right? That they should never be in a position where Smeb gets an ult specifically onto either Goong or OQ.
I didn't even think of that, yeah, but with Destiny, they can just find out where Malphite is, even if they don't have a single ward on the map. That's a very good point. Ku going for their second dragon, though, and they're going to get it.
But look at Duke up top. Remember, there's no teleport available. Back away, Pure.
Oh, Pure in big trouble. Flashes to get out of that one. Dragon does go to the Ku Tigers, and nearly a pick onto Pure again.
I mean, honestly, Pure dying or throwing his flash is pretty equivalent in terms of effect onto Najin, because an Annie without flash is very, very useless in any sort of a team fight situation.
Yeah.
Najin were already looking to opt into trading an inner turret.
Oh, they barely can't get that turret.
Oh, boy.
Looks like Ku wants to do something. There's a gold card onto Hojin, but nobody else there. It's just for the disengage.
That was actually Goong was very smart there. He was trying to look tasty to buy time for Na to walk straight back up the top lane and not actually give away his life either.
Right. Now OQ trying to push up bot lane, and Smeb is there. Ah, the lurking Malphite.
Base damages from Malphite can't be ignored, specifically when he's not around the Aegis.
Yeah. Oh, that rocket barely didn't hit him. OQ actually thinks he's not there because he shot that rocket in. Oh boy, oh boy. All right, here comes the rest of him. OQ's in big trouble, guys. There it is, the unstoppable force, and OQ just gets destroyed. He shot the rocket in, and it was like 1 pixel away from hitting Smeb. That was just a bit of bad luck there from OQ, but I guess you could argue he didn't check the bush properly.
And that's just an OQ moment and something that's been so sparing this season. OQ actually has the lowest percentage of team deaths on his team, and that's a guy that would go crazy and miss position, once a series back in the spring season. He's been so much smarter around that. Look at this mini-map. There were no blue wards in the area pushed past the river. Why is he over there thinking he can just get free damage onto an inner tower? It's just poor communication once again from Najin.
And this is really weird because, or this is really Najin, I should say, because game 1 was so tight and so methodical, and game 2 has been pretty sloppy overall, right from the beginning. So I don't know what's going on, man. I mean, this is why Najin is a hard train. It's a hard hype train to jump on, you know?
And game 2 started like game 1 ended. Remember, Najin made a pretty sloppy engage when they were 14,000 gold ahead, but won anyway because they were so far ahead. Now, this is the same Najin we're seeing. They're just playing too cute around objectives and not respecting very clear things, like, for example, the threat of the unstoppable force.
Yeah. It's really silly, actually, how many poignant engages Smeb has been able to get with this ultimate.
Take a champion out of the meta for a while. I mean, Clearlove, of course, brought back Evelynn in the MSI final, and then there was that big resurgence when everyone's picking Evelynn, because teams kind of forget, wait, how do we play against Evelynn? Oh, ward camps, okay. Like, you forget those statistics. You'd think a champion as linear as Malphite would stay sold regardless of whether we saw him in or out of the meta, but this game has shown us very clearly the answer is Malphite apparently weird and wonderful despite only having one thing he can do.
I guess, you know. What else can you say, right? Najin trying to push up this bottom lane again, and they're getting a few wards into the enemy jungle. Right now, Ku definitely with the vision advantage as they've got a couple wards, one in Try down the bottom and one up by the blue buff. Very strong places to put wards. A little bit of damage from the culling coming in from Prey.
1-3-1, certainly in effect from Najin.
The Prey's got that QSS as well too, so it's going to be really hard for the gold card from Goong to actually do anything here. Oh, Goong has to pop that Destiny.
Doesn't try to channel it because, of course, the Unburrow would have interrupted it, but
yeah,
Hojin knows what's up.
Oh, yeah. Yep, but getting that ultimate out of the way is a big deal. Just another small win for the Ku Tigers. We may actually be going to a Game 3 here.
And a blind pick as well.
I know.
Najin.
WTF 2 Lucians.
That almost certainly is going to be the case. Are you ready for the Lucian Kennen mirror match?
I know, the double shins. Oh boy, well, Tibbers goes down on the Gorilla. They get some damage in. You're still in a lot of trouble with the Chaos Storm. Najin already having to back off. There goes Watch, there goes Gorilla, and Ku just too strong right now. I mean, there's just no follow-up for Najin. Duke tries to get in the back, but where's everybody else? Goong coming in. Oh! 5-man Gnar ult, but where's the damage? I don't even think they can do it. OQ throwing in a couple rockets, but they take down Duke, and that is it. Another team fight win for the Ku Tigers. They're going to take out nearly everybody. Only OQ surviving that one. I mean, 5-man Gnar ults are certainly impressive, but it was way too late in the fight to do anything. he probably shouldn't have even tried to engage there. I mean, Najin is just falling apart in this game.
And KOO Tigers, the one thing you can say about Smeb and Hojin, they're damn tanky. They're just completely ignoring all the damage. A 5-man Gnar ultimate, it just wasn't a big factor. This is going to be the Baron, and I can't believe it, but the KOO Tigers, they're still in this series.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, we see the Flash Tippers engage, gets cleansed immediately by Prey. All right, you back off there, but
Pure super squishy, and unfortunately the front line, the likes of Annie and Elise, who are the champions that are being the most forward, are super squishy. Now Duke makes the transformation. This is a beautiful 5-man Gnar ultimate and stun. But it doesn't matter because OQ and Goon, they can't contribute damage because the front line's too damn strong from KOO.
yeah, I mean, and both Kuro and Prey have cleanses in one form or another. I mean, you're just not going to get any hard CC on them at this point.
Malphite's going to win, though.
I know. I mean, I like Malphite, but still, man, this is it's just crazy. I mean, it's for such a one-dimensional champion to have such an effect. It's not something you see very often, and it's just doubly surprising because of how good Najin looked in game number 1.
Yeah, a lot of the advantages to the KOO Tigers were granted by Najin this game rather than manufactured by hard work from KOO. They didn't respect the power of Malphite and the picks. They didn't respect. They walked into a brush that wasn't warded against a Malphite. You never do that.
I think Najin looked very complacent in this early game against KOO after how game number 1 went. You can't really blame them for a bit of complacency, but you really can't underestimate any team in this tournament, as KOO is proving right now.
Najin Hype Train was in full gear, not what, half an hour ago, and suddenly people might be looking to refund their tickets.
It's pretty derailed at the moment, but there still is one more game. And to be fair, with a really poor team fight, maybe they can come back, but I think there's just too much tankiness on the KOO Tigers. Yeah, look at this. Have the Baron buff pushing right in for that inhibitor.
Yeah, Smeb's just looking for the dive. We're going to see Kuro flash aggressively, most likely the moment that an unstoppable force is channeled.
It seems pretty unlikely that Najin's going to be able to win this game.
In the late game, KOO Tigers will have damage issues. It's only purely Kuro and Prey for damage, whereas everyone Najin is a pseudo damage dealer. But with the Aegis completed, magic resist stacking coming through from Smeb. The reality is that right now, nobody on Najin does damage to either Smeb or Hojin.
Yeah. And now KOO Tigers up 3 dragons to 1 too. And they're gonna go right up to that top lane, it looks like. Oh, Goong has to gate out of there. That's the second time in a row he's had to use his Gate of Destiny to just escape.
Yeah, Najin are trying the 1-3-1, but the big issue with the 1-3-1 though is that KOO just move as a 5-man unit, and Alistar just the same as Malphite. If you're trying to defend with 3 members, he's just going to dive you with the Unstoppable Force and tank the turret, and they're going to pick up a win. So the 1-3-1 right now is completely neutered by Najin.
Pretty much.
What's left is the question.
Well, what's left is a methodical closing of the game that we saw from Najin in game 1 and that we're starting to see from KOO Tigers in game 2. Got a little while, but Kuro being 4-0-4 is certainly a good thing.
It is. They picked up the last 3 dragons, finally reclaimed their spot as the team that has always been the master of dragon control.
Yeah.
Smashing down the turret. Smeb doesn't take damage at this point.
Watch could be in a bit of trouble. Yeah, there goes the turret. Watch repels, but where's he going to go? Straight back to the fountain via death.
Just deleted. Now they have no front line at all. Duke, situationally a tank at best. Remember, he's basically got Hex Drinker and magic resist items at this point. Prey is doing huge damage on the Lucian just because no armor really completed by Najin.
Yeah, nothing's really stopping Prey. They have no way to really get onto him. With the Gate of Destiny down, KOO can be just as aggressive as they want to be. Duke, Mega Gnar throws a couple people in the turret. This is the moment. Nice Tipper stun. Goong locked up in the back line, so they need him for damage. He's going to get taken out by Kuro. There's the Unstoppable Force coming in, and that is going to be it. That is game right there, guys. A clean ace. A triple kill from Kuro. And the KOO Tigers look like they're ready to close this one out, going right for the Nexus turrets. They're just going to face tank it with Smeb. He's so tanky, he's going to be just fine.
It's only 33 minutes in, but the death timers are long enough. And off-screen, Kuro just flashed and killed Twisted Fate after we already saw Elise fall down. And it's going to be the very unlikely win for the KOO Tigers.
Well, Najin got a bit complacent in the early game. They did not play well, and KOO Tigers really can't underestimate these guys. They've certainly got it in them to come back and win this series, and they won game 2. We're going to blind pick. How about that?
That is not something I saw chatting to people during the break here. It looked like it was going to be an easy 2-0 for Najin, but Ku had other ideas about the script today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all started with Najin walking into a brush where they could get ulted by a Malphite, and it was all downhill from there, and I have no idea. I'm not making any predictions for Game 3. It's blind pick, whole different group of strategic elements for both of these teams, and with the way Najin played, I don't know who's going to take it.
The Malphite in particular did so much work, Doa. But was it the Malphite pick, or was it the disrespect shown by Najin towards Malphite? That's maybe the question that we have to be left with, is Najin giveth and Najin taketh away.
I guess so. Well, I'm glad we're getting some excitement. Wild card here for going all the way to game number 3. It's been a while since we've seen a blind pick game here in Korea, but tell your friends, guys, it is going to be awesome. Blind pick games are always crazy. Sometimes very difficult to cast from the play-by-play side because we've got the same champions, but it should be awesome, man. Chroma Skins take the wheel.
Some of the champions we might see, the permabans like Kalista, could be coming out.
That's right. We'll be right back with Game 3. Guys, don't go anywhere. And we are back on Champion Summer, the wild card match. And it is wild because the KOO Tigers win game 2. Kuro with the MVP on that victor, certainly getting a lot of damage done, but man, Smeb set up so many good AoE opportunities with the Malphite. Get ready for it? You ready? Press R.
3-man knockup was just beautiful to see. I was really impressed with Smeb. Look, I thought the Malphite would be too limited, but he was such a tanky frontline for the likes of Corki and TF who just couldn't push damage through him. And the initiation plays, they certainly worked.
Well, Smeb did a very good job of being tricky with his ultimate, and then also in team fights where he was known, where his position was known, to be very patient with it and wait for the right opportunity. You're in trouble when a 5-man Gnar does not result in any kills for your team.
You could argue that KOO were being a little bit thoughtless about their positioning because they knew there wasn't the damage behind the Gnar ultimate, so they kind of opted into a 5-man ultimate. But you're right, it was beautiful to see. And Kuro's players on the side, specifically here, blowing up Goong, so he wasn't a factor in this fight. Elise was already dead. Picture perfect ultimate from Smeb.
Yeah, gets the bot lane there, and yep. Najin just looked, compared to, it was like night and day between game 1 and game 2. I mean, game 1 was very, very tight, very methodical, very careful, except for a couple fights at the end. Game 2 was relatively sloppy from the beginning. They really didn't respect the KOO Tigers, and even a team like KOO Tigers that have been struggling lately demands respect. They are this far in the tournament for a reason, and if you don't give them their due, they will Malphite all over you, apparently.
And speaking of respect, they showed the disrespect in their play, and then in picks and bans, they just handed Kuro victor.
Yeah.
He's 9-2 for this season. He's only had those 2 losses in his whole career. And the difference between this game and the previous game just shows this guy is a master of victor, and coming into a blind pick, you have to probably expect it again.
Yeah, you can't stop him this time. We're going into blind pick, guys, because even though it's technically not a playoff match, I guess it's enough of one that we have blind pick. I don't know. It's a wild card match. I'm just happy we get blind pick, and here we go. What's it going to be?
Callista from OQ.
Callista Kennen, man. You got to see the Callista Kennen bot lane from Najin.
I mean, the Callista's the one thing we expect to come in.
We're wondering about the Riven.
There's probably going to be at least one Riven. I mean, I could see Duke going to the Shen instead, but...
Yeah, you wouldn't pick the Xin Zhao. I'd imagine Elise is going to be the choice from Watch here. I don't think we're going to see the Malphite. But the Shen, I'd really like to see the Shen from Duke. I don't think you want to throw Soraka in there with Fate's Call. I don't think that does a whole lot.
This is all about creating identity with your picks. This is theoretically the champion picks that gave you the strongest scrim results. These are the picks that you've been winning the most with. You can go super creative or you can go super standard. The trend is usually towards the most reliable picks, basically the strongest meta picks, because you don't want to take a big risk and then lose in what is an elimination match just before the playoffs even start. But yeah. I feel like even with 30 seconds down, we have no idea what Najin's really considering.
I agree, too. I mean, we're going to see a lot of swaps. Obviously, Goong was very, very good on the LeBlanc in the past, but the Azir is a much safer choice. LeBlanc just isn't that great, as some games in China showed us today. And I think Goong's Azir is the perfect safe pick to go for here. Now, Ashe Leona would be very interesting. I think we're going to see that swapped over. Oh, is that it?
That is baby.
It. Wow, what a comp from the KOO Tigers. And Ashe Leona from Najin, this has gone very differently than what we expected. No Kalista on either side. WTF to Ashe.
There's a Ashe mirror match after seeing no Ashe the whole season. It's incredible.
I guess so. We've reached that point in time where you get the Ashe mirror. Well, Papa Smithy, what do you say? We're going into the game, and this is it. The season on the line for both of these teams. And Najin, I mean, they are going to have quite the gauntlet to climb to get into Worlds if they lose here.
And KOO Tigers, man, do they have ways to enable that Yasuo ultimate.
Yes, they
Malphite
do.
Gragas, you can't ask for much more than that.
Oh, I love it. Well, here we go, guys. Game number 3, blind pick between the KOO Tigers and Najin Empire. Who moves on to the playoffs? Let's get in the game and find out. Welcome for the last time today to Summoner's Rift, the KOO Tigers fans and the Najin fans ready to go. And you look at that Yasuo pick in the mid lane there, and you remember how Najin banded out both games. They were really worried about this, but being that they banned it so aggressively, you'd think they would expect it. So what's the plan going to be? This Leona, an interesting pick for Pure. So much lockdown.
Yeah, we're definitely expecting Najin to play around this mid lane matchup because you can just look at those champion picks and know that if Ku get Kuro ahead, this game is going to be such an uphill battle for them to fight because there's so many different ways to knock up through the likes of Braum, Gragas, and Malphite that this immobile Ashe, OQ will have to be so on point with his flashes because every time that spell is down, they basically can't team fight.
Yeah, you know, the big question I have again is with this Malphite. Yeah, of course it is good against the Ashe. Would have been good against the Kalista as well, but it should be predictable. Now, Najin appeared to have problems with that in the last game, but still, it's something that should be something that they can adapt to, you know? You'd hope so anyway.
But the thing is, it's not just Malphite that's the third onto Ashe. There's so many different specials. You've got the ranged
Gragas.
ultimate with the Gragas ultimate, of course, the
Braum
body
as
slam
well.
as well. Braum ultimate, like we mentioned.
Yeah.
This is Ashe's nightmare. It's not quite Olaf, but it's right up there.
I don't know what to say, man. And the Shen pick, I like Shen. Obviously, Duke's a great Shen player right now, but who do you really send him on in this particular comp? You know, do you throw him with the Leona as she goes in with the Zenith Blade, I suppose? I feel like a Kalista Kennen would have been such a much better enabler for big taunts from Shen.
When you look down the lineup that you're facing, of course, you opt into this lineup, which does a bit of peel. It can engage. Like, it does a lot of things decently, but it has no real identity. It's not really an engaged comp. It's not really a disengaged comp. You look at your enemy and you're like, okay, we need to be using all these ultimates to kite backwards. They need to be picking up objectives and then kiting away, because in the team fights, you know, with the likes of the Yasuo or Gragas, they're going to be super hard to do. And unless Pure can really get on top of Bray, you know, it was all about OQ free hitting on Ashe in game 1, and it could be Bray this time around.
Now, we had a blue steal from Ku Tigers. Najin should be aware of that, but can they get in and take the blue buff from Ku, though? I don't know.
Have to wait and see.
We'll see if they can or not. They sent Shen down to the bottom lane.
Wow, Gung's been really chunked out
he has.
in this lane. This is usually a laning matchup that Azir will do very well in, because of course Yasuo has to opt into melee range and just take at least a couple of Sand Soldier
like that
autos. Now, you can be very tricky, of course. You're usually maxing the E in this lane, so you can usually just take the one hit and then just find a minion to move away from. But in general, we expect Kuro's health bar to be relatively low most of the laning phase.
Yep, and Najin does respond with that blue steal, so the team's trading blue buffs early on in the game here.
This is actually a big win for Najin. You look at the lane matchup we've ended up on. It's Ashe laning against a Malphite that has a null magic mantle.
Oh boy, yeah, you're right. Wow. Smeb definitely not accounting for the lane swap here.
That's a really reckless buy to spend 500 gold on the null magic mantle.
You know, do you turn this into like quick Merc treads, I suppose, or what do you think the plan is here?
Merc treads.
Hex Drinker?
I mean, maybe some sort of mana regen item. It's just very strange to go for that, just because you always have to think that there's this chance of a lane swap. So
it is a bit odd.
With the information, it's just a super risky buy.
Yeah, and look at how much OQ can just poke Smeb here. And of course, Malphite's got a lot of armor. He's got a lot of tankiness, but in a 1v1, he's not going to do terribly great against an Ashe early on.
And just a Doran shield. Remember, Shen doesn't have a very high base damage on his Q. Okay, it's resourceless, but when you're taking 8 flat damage from spells and auto attacks, Doran shield's such a more flexible item choice. Went the super greedy option of the null magic mantle, and that's why it's smart of Najin to rotate OQ into this lane.
Yep, very true. Very true. We'll see which Ashe is superior.
I can't believe you just said that sentence.
We'll see which of these teams has the best Ashe.
This is not how it's supposed to be in Blind Pick, though.
Oh, Bray in a little bit of trouble. Big dive onto him, and that's an easy first blood, and it goes to Duke. Very important to get that kill on him. Snowballing this top laner versus top laner a little bit more already.
And the CC layering was so on point. Bray was able to heal, but not flash, because there was just certainly no time to even work in that spell. Najin, they can get the dragon control. That'll definitely justify the Elise pick, but when you let Pure roam on this Leona, the roaming gank squad has incredible CC between Elise and Leona.
Yeah, meanwhile, OQ staying safe up in the top lane.
There's just nothing Smeb can do. He can try and trade a little bit, but
Smeb CSing okay here. But yeah, but OQ's not dying, so that's a big advantage he's got.
Well, I mean, in this rotation, it's freed up Pure to make the play we just saw, and it's definitely not an ideal matchup for Smeb because of the starting item like we mentioned, so Good job with Najin. They've definitely rotated their resources smartly in the early game.
Yeah, and you can tell they were planning something like this or hoping they could execute on something like this too, because we talked so much already about how Pure is not really a big roaming support, and he's not. But now that he's on Leona, look at this. He can roam up to the top lane. He can help Najin get another kill. Smeb flashes. Looks like he'll be able to get out. Had to burn that summoner, but now Pure suddenly becomes this threat that didn't really exist before for Najin too, which is also something that Ku might have a little bit of a hard time adapting to.
Yeah, maybe that's the surprise.
Could be.
There's an average of 10% kill participation difference from Gorilla and Pure.
Yeah.
Pure's doing his best Gorilla impression this game, and it's completely thrown off the Ku early game.
Yeah, it really looks like that. But they've got to follow up. I mean, they've got about a 900 gold, 1,000 gold lead right now, which is a lot for right now, but it's still very early in the game.
And they haven't swapped back, so that's why they haven't really made any plays around Dragon. They have Duke 1v2ing and doing fine. You'd expect Shen to lose a lot in terms of turret damage here, just because, again, no sort of ranged wave clear before he's even able to go back and buy. But look at that, he actually has a full health turret, despite the fact that we've seen Leona roaming around the map and the lane swap in play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Oku's just so safe up there compared to Prey that Pure can just, if he needs to be in a two-person lane, he'll just stick with Duke.
Had to blow that summoner and died earlier, and that's just meant that the pressure onto Duke in a 1v2 with no wave clear is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
And Ku doesn't feel confident enough to start forcing the dragon, so man, lane swap advantages upon lane swap advantages for Najin.
Meanwhile, Gung has been able to get a CS lead over Kuro. Obviously, Duke and Oku have their CS leads as well too, so Najin's starting to pull ahead in every category again. And the thing about these blind pick games is because of the team comps you end up with, these games usually do tend to snowball very quickly. So Ku Tigers, it may not look like it, but historically they should feel like they're already in a very dangerous situation.
And look, Smeb, he stuck to his guns. He actually kept building for the eventual 1v1 matchup, knowing that Oki would have to swap back. So he's still building into the Abyssal Scepter, despite the fact that Ashe was in the lane as recently as 20 seconds ago. But you know that there will have to be a swap back at some point, just because of the power of having two champions on the bottom side in terms of dragon control. So stuck to his guns and has the laning items now.
It's true. Yasuo tossing up his sword in the air and catching it before taking a swig out of whatever he's drinking. That's dangerous, but at least he's doing it in the right order.
Yasuo and Siva really like playing with those sharp blades.
They do. I would not recommend it. Don't let your kids see that, or they'll start throwing swords around. You know how video games influence the young people these days.
That's true.
Yep. Gotta watch out for that.
Oku has the big advantage in the 1v1. In the Ashe mirror match, obviously items are going to be the big determiner. And it's BF sword against just the pickaxe and the Avarice blade. Obviously similar amount of gold between those two sets of items, but with that item power advantage, you can see Bray hanging so far back in the lane, knowing that he just can't contest the 2v2 with Ashe Leona.
Right. Now we see how this 1v1's going to go, and seems like Duke should be in a pretty good spot with it.
It's
He's
tank
already
wars,
got his
Dilla.
cowl. Yeah.
It's the epitome of tank wars. No kill potential from either person.
What about the CSing potential?
Infinite.
Infinite CSing potential. If they stay in this game forever, they will get unlimited CS. It's true.
I guess Duke has had to itemize towards magic resist. It doesn't have the constituent parts of a Sunfire cape, so isn't able to counter push as well as he would like to.
Yeah, it looks like he's going for a quick Spirit Visage before anything else at this point.
I don't know about completing the Spirit Visage. I don't mind sitting on the Kindle Gem and the Spectre's Cowl, but
yeah,
I think it's time to build into the Sunfire now.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah. You just need the Balmy Cinder at least for some sort of wave control, because if you're getting outpushed by a Malphite, it's pretty sad days. Wow,
he's definitely not, I guess. Man, Smeb taking a lot of damage in that trade. I didn't expect it to go that one-sided. Wonder what happened up there.
I mean, Smeb has to deal with mana. He's not
That's
a
true,
resourceless champion. He doesn't have Flask. He's gone purely for laning stats, so he just doesn't have the mana pool to trade with Shen.
Well, Hojin trying to look for a lane gank here of some kind. It doesn't look like he's going to get it. Watch is nearby, but wouldn't be close enough to help anything.
Goong's been playing smart. He's been clearing waves and then going to pick up wolves and raptors. He knows that there is a target drawn on his back. It's obvious when it's Gragas Yasuo you're dealing with in the mid lane, so he's never in mid lane unless he has to be.
Well, Najin's done a good job of mitigating that too, because they put so much pressure on top and bottom that there really hasn't been any time for Ku to really try to gank Goong in the mid lane. That's exactly what Goong wants. Goong is going full Kuro this game.
It's a good line of play from Najin because this is a snowball comp. We're talking about melee champions with high burst damage. If they ever fall behind or even theoretically are even in items in the late game, the burst potential's not there. That's just the reality of melee champions trying to do damage in the late game like Yasuo. If you get a snowball, you show up with Trinity Force, Infinity Edge, Static Shift, absolutely you can do massive damage. But if you just play passively around those timings, try and take the dragons, which are always going to be safer with your large amount of ranged champions, things should be fine for Najin. So they're very happy playing the patient game so far.
Yeah, Nashor's Tooth done for Goon. Oh, Prey coming up. They're going to try to make a plan to Duke. Nice arrow onto Duke. Is he going to live through it? Smeb taking a lot of turret damage. Duke is so tanky already. Smeb nearly died to the turret. Here comes Hojin to finish off the dive. A flash from Duke. They're going to get him eventually, but man, does it cost him. Arrow comes through. Gorilla not taking turret aggro at the moment, though, so the stun's not going to get any kills for OQ. They will get the dragon, and they may even get the mid lane turret out of this.
Why did Ku send 5 members to the top lane with Dragon available and a Nashor's Tooth Azir?
Because they
hitting on the turret.
Because they must kill Duke no matter the cost.
Good job. You killed Duke. Smeb has to flash away as well. They're going to push onto a second turret. This is Ash free hitting with a BF sword.
Dude, they're going to lose 2 turrets and a dragon in exchange for losing Duke and the top lane turret. That was not a good trade for the Ku Tigers.
I mean, that's putting it lightly, though. That was just a bizarre play to commit all 5 members. 4, 3, sure, maybe, but all of them?
Well, look at now. You've got the AD carry and the mid laner roughly 30 CS ahead of their counterparts on the other side, and man, Duke, I mean, living forever here.
The call must have been clear because you can look at the mini-map. Obviously he's eventually going to die, but everyone has been called to the top lane. Even Yasuo is rotating.
They use so much, and man, are they lucky that the Ash arrow hit Gorilla and not Prey there. Otherwise, OQ would have gotten a kill from across the map. Nice attempt, anyway.
Minion wave control and just being smart around objectives, setting up slow pushes. That's what Ku is known for. This game, a must-win for Ku. They're blindly diving 5 members top lane with all those objectives available. This is not the Ku Tigers we've come to expect.
You know, I gotta say, I think this is the Ku Tigers we've come to expect, because remember, when they get nervous, when the chips are on the table, the Ku Tigers, what do? They start to fall apart, and how do they fall apart? They over-prioritize ganking top lane. This is classic mental breakdown Ku Tigers play right here.
Shades of IEM Katowice.
Seriously, ever since that tournament, man, whenever they start to get stressed out, they over-prioritize ganking top lane. We've seen it for months, but frankly, I am surprised to see it here. It seemed like something that was starting to kind of be weeded out of their play, but again, the Ku Tigers, we've seen them in high pressure situations, and their season's on the line in this game. It doesn't get any higher pressure than this, and making some questionable decisions. Najin really trying for this red buff now, though.
Remember, they took out the mid and bottom outer turret, so of course it makes sense to come and contest this red buff.
Yep.
They even get it.
Wow,
good job by
did.
Goong there to steal it with the Sand Soldier. This is what was afforded to Najin by just picking up the 2 outer turrets. Now suddenly, the safe resources to farm, like the red buff, like the Raptors, are going to be consistently contested because this was just granted to Najin and Fire.
Yeah. Najin seeming to have a much better answer to the Malphite this time, and really respecting that ultimate a lot more as well.
I mean, it hasn't been a factor. Remember, this was all, it wasn't a team fight that got Najin this advantage. It was purely a huge misrotation by Ku.
It was almost purely pure, you could say. Well, except for that amazing play by Duke. But purely pure sounded like it was a good thing to say at the time. So that's why I said it. Don't question me. Don't give me that look, Papa Smithy.
Take that, Hojin.
Hojin eats an arrow there. That was meant for the bot lane.
He was so close to still being in fountain healing range.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
Doesn't even need to go back. He's like, oh, that was chilly.
And suddenly Goong, Nashor's Tooth into the Needlessly Large Rod. Yeah. So much power already. Kuro obviously has to power up. The plan of playing around Kuro and this Yasuo hasn't happened, and now Kuro's going to have to spend so much time, because remember, it's 10,000 gold to achieve the current core 100% crit items, the likes of Trinity Force, Static Shift, Infinity Edge. Looking a long way away 15 minutes into this game.
Yep. The gold lead still is small. The Dragon and Turret lead does go to Najin. Ku Tigers trying to set up a bit of a trap here at the red buff onto Watch. Can they get him? Watch could be in a lot of trouble. There's no support for him. There's no wards, though, for Ku, so they can't see this happening. So that makes the trap very hard to spring, doesn't it? Wow. All right. Well, that just happened.
We thought we would see a dead Watch. Pops the ward.
It's like, oh, man. Oh, I can just feel the sadness. Kuro's like, oh, I don't want to be here now.
The fact that we haven't seen a single last breath 15 minutes in when we're talking about Malphite, Gragas, Braum synergy.
Yeah, haven't even seen a first breath.
No. We saw a sign of first breath in the second game. We didn't think we'd see it from Ku, but they proved us wrong with an impressive performance there.
Well, Najin impressively got themselves Malphite ulted a couple times as well. OQ pushing up this top lane now. They've got the turret down in bot, so they can pressure this final outer turret. And Watch and Pure in a position to support him.
Yasuo just can't go anywhere near Goon at this point just because of the item disparity. So just running them around the map as much as possible and just having the tank wars in bottom.
Near a 50 CS lead right now for Goong over Kuro. That is huge for 16 minutes into the game, man.
Both solo lanes, 50 CS and 35 CS respectively. And look at this damage.
Wow, Nashor's Tooth does a lot. Dropping those Sand Soldiers right on the turret as well, too.
And look, we know that Azir with free time does a lot of damage to turrets. It's just, think about the team he's against and the confidence that he can walk up to an inner turret at 16 minutes against this comp and feel no pressure whatsoever.
Yep. Well, 40 seconds now before the next dragon comes up. And do you think Ku can even fight this?
I mean, you can see the gank rush that's coming through here.
They can. Again, with a good Malphite ult, they can.
I don't know if they have the item timings though, Doa. Like this Yasuo went back and bought magic resists. So look, Yasuo does a lot of consistent damage if he stays alive, but
well, Goong's got to have a lot of money right now too, and he's not going back and spending it. So there is a lot of that gold lead that is not represented in items yet for Najin, I think.
Well, just think about the positions of power for Najin. It's around the mid and bot lane. Those are the advantages they got in that big turret trade 5 minutes ago. There's never been any safe time for Ku to put in defensive vision around the dragon, so the dragon is the only spot Najin's going to look to fight around, and Ku's got no vision. They can't go anywhere near it.
Yeah. And they are going to get that easy dragon. It's true. Prey trying to push up the top lane, but Duke is right there.
When you have 4 melee champions and an immobile AD carry, vision has to be the priority, because the only way you can fight
Flare,
one.
they grab Kuro. Ah, the wind wall blocks the Zenith Blade. He wasn't quite quick enough on the draw there. Whoa! And Smeb just wants you out. OQ. Can we say it? Yep, I think so.
Out of context, that was a very bizarre interaction with OQ dying under the turret. Maybe another face check of a brush from OQ, but okay, that happened. Just coming back to my point, 4 melee champions, as we're going to see.
Let's watch OQ's most embarrassing moment yet this season.
He's like, I'm going to kill Smeb. But look at the health bar. Remember, it's quite high, but
flash for it.
Ash does not have the base stats to deal with that. Dies during the knock-up duration.
You got the flash. Be happy with that, OQ. OQ's never happy with just the flash. He wants the kill.
Look, I understand if this is Najin versus Spenu, no stakes whatsoever, but what is the point of looking for a greedy solo kill in a match that literally decides your fate in this tournament?
Seriously, and again, that's a move that we have not seen OQ do for a while now.
You know who's going to be comfortable after this series, Doa?
CJ?
CJ Entus.
I agree.
Because both these teams have such demonstrable weaknesses, and they're just showing them and offering them on a tee to a CJ team that can just make adjustments and really punish both the mistakes of these teams.
We're really seeing the bad habits come back for both of these teams, aren't we?
Under pressure, that's often when, you know, the facades start to drop and the bad habits start to show when you're in a high-stakes environment. Both these teams certainly not looking like they're on par with this SKTs and KTs of this league.
Now, what do you think about OQ getting his Zeal before finishing the Infinity Edge?
I don't mind it. It must have been a gold timing thing, maybe the 1100 gold versus 1350. It's probably him feeling sheepish when he should have just safely farmed up 200 gold instead of suiciding to the Malphite under turret. But look, it's a bit more immediate power. They want to ensure they can keep fighting. He doesn't know when he'll find the next item timing, so it's fine, but no, it's certainly a delay in power.
It's like, what do you do to the Malphite that's down 30 CS? Oh, I'll give him a kill. I'll give him a solo kill. Good job.
To their credit, the CS leads have stayed the same, but the gold lead's only 1200, and if Smeb has shown one thing in these last 2 games is that he's hitting priority targets with regularity with his ultimate.
Yeah. Now, we should specify that no matter who loses today, both of these teams are still coming back for the gauntlet to qualify for Worlds. So the season ends for one of these teams after this game, but the hopes for Worlds do continue. we'll just see who's going to be looking better going into that one. Teleport coming in. They're going to try to make a plan to Duke here. Gets slowed down. There's a hawk shot to reveal him. And Prey slowing with that auto attack. Q doesn't quite land. Looks like they're going to keep chasing, but the turret is there. Oh, they got him right before the arrow, and there's the unstoppable force. Duke's going to get taken out. Smeb looking much tankier now. Oh, and the arrow dodged by Hojin.
Najin postured towards Baron, then obviously faking it, tried for the re-engage and didn't get it. Okay, so there's 25 seconds for Ku to do whatever they want. Good thing for Najin, no big objectives to really look for right now.
I guess so. Prey's starting to get a couple kills going on that Ashe, though.
He's got the item advantage after OQ basically decided to delay his own item build with his own stupidity.
I guess. I don't know. It's some bizarre choices on both sides here. I mean, it looked like Najin had all the advantages, and they're just deciding to give them away at this point.
Najin's gone full Wall Street these last 2 games. The greed is good has certainly been their moniker, and in multiple ways they've been made to punish by Ku.
Guess so. They need a government to bail them out at this point.
Government bailout. The world's bailout, the watch bailout.
Rito
it looked
bailout?
like it was coming, but
well, they're not out of contention for Worlds yet. You know, like we just said, they're going to the Gauntlet later after the season is done. But I don't know. I think when you said that CJ's watching these games and feeling pretty good about the match on Wednesday is fairly accurate at this point.
Definitely think they have to be.
Yep.
Kuro's really been delayed in terms of damage items, gone purely for the defensive stats. Might be working towards, I guess, the Mercurial Scimitar. Maybe just building magic resist. No, I mean, QSS done, but probably still going to be the Infinity Edge. There's no huge upside to investing in the Scimitar just yet.
Yeah, and we see Prey a full 1,000 gold over OQ at this point.
Means so much in the mirror match, though.
Yeah. You know, this is after Prey was down by like 30 CS and had no kills.
Yep.
And how do you really come back as an Ashe, right? Like, where's the real playmaking potential unless you land a pretty magnificent arrow?
I mean, it's all about the strength of your tank line. Ashe's power is completely a function of how strong the peel is for her. If the team has peel, she can do a lot of damage. She has a lot of control, but she has a Shen and a Leona in her pocket. But look, in terms of straight up damage, it's probably not a lot to choose between Prey and OQ. You just have to think that the Shen in the pocket rather than the Malphite might be the trump card for Najin in the fight.
Right. Pure's Leona was able to move around the map and make plays early on, but now just really not finding the opportunities as the turrets have started falling in favor of the Ku Tigers.
Ku still hasn't been able to get a lot of ward control around Dragon. They will be in a position to fight for it in 20 seconds.
Well, that's the big question here is can Najin keep the dragons rolling? If they can get this 3rd dragon, that's probably the most important thing they can do.
I mean, their mistakes has offered a lot of the control in that area back to Ku. It's fairly neutral in terms of vision right now, but you can see Najin's not posturing comfortably. They've had OQ farming happily in the top lane for the last couple of minutes, even though they had the exact time of the dragon.
Yep, that is true. OQ is moving down now. Dragon is up, though. Looks like Ku's not going to be able to go for it immediately. Now, if they get like a perfect Leona ultimate into Ashe ultimate, if they can chain the CC like that, maybe they can blow somebody up. But when you've got Gragas and Malphite coming in on you and you've got that peel from Braum, it's going to be really hard for Najin to get onto anybody here.
And the big thing is that both OQ and Goong do a lot of damage when they're kiting backwards, but they can't help with the dives. So the only person that's a viable ultimate target is Prey, because there's already the QSS on Kuro. There's just not a lot of follow-up damage. So maybe they can get Elise and Shen on top of the enemy Ashe and tie her up.
That's the idea.
But they have to worry about the counter-engage and the disengage of the likes of Malphite and Gragas.
So they'd like to. Well, Ku Tigers activating this dragon now, and where's the vision? Najin coming in now. Can they take it away? This dragon is crucial for their hopes here in this season. Dragon getting very low. Smeb comes from the side. Whoa, what a series of ults from the Ku Tigers. Unstoppable force into the Ashe arrow, and the Ku Tigers completely destroy Najin the Empire. Kills coming in on both sides, but it is all Ku. They kept Prey alive. Duke very, very low. Can they take him out under the turret? Yes, they can. And once again, Najin not respecting the Malphite ultimate, and it will cost them a Baron. They're going to, I mean, Ku can just go back and take the dragon later, I guess. I'm surprised they're not prioritizing the dragon, but Baron is good too.
Smeb's Flash Ultimate was the huge trump card. They have to
Yeah.
at all times have vision over this Malphite because he facilitates the melee damage carry Kuro getting instantly into the backline onto the Ashe, who went down very early in the fight. Gonna be an uncontested Baron, and Ku Tigers, man, we questioned the Malphite pick, but with regularity, they're making it work.
Well, yeah, I mean, Najin just isn't respecting it. Now, luckily for Najin, the Dragon is still available, and they could probably get it, but look at this, chaining a CC right in the last breath, of course.
And Goong dies instantly. He's a control mage, but Malphite had a straight line straight into Ashe and Goong, and they both died early, and Prey free hits.
Yeah, Dragon attempt by Najin right now, they get it, and that is huge. That may actually have been a little bit of an error. Do you think that it was worth it for Ku to get the Baron and give up the third Dragon to Najin? Because by giving Najin the third Dragon, it really keeps him in the game, doesn't it?
I mean, it does, but we're still talking about Najin being able to find the 4th and 5th, and there's no assumption that can happen, because with the Baron buff, they should be able to push up lanes finally, the Ku Tigers. Remember, pushing is not their strong suit. The only ranged champion they have is Ashe. If they can use this Baron buff to take out these outer turrets, to start pushing up vision, force that situation where Najin's like, okay, we have the exact timer, but don't know where that Malphite or Gragas is.
Well, here's the thing, is that it doesn't look like Ku Tigers are really finding any opportunities to push these lanes right now. In fact, at the moment, they're going back towards their own base.
Well, the mistake here is in Prey's positioning, and specifically in the lack of grouping from Ku. So they picked up the Baron. That wasn't against the run of play. That was after they got a big pick. They should be the ones dictating the next few minutes during the Baron buff. But as you mentioned, they've actually wasted, what, at least 25% of it just milling around the map.
You've got to think, too, if they would have taken the Dragon, maybe they could have just ran right over the mid lane and taken that as well, too. So this priority on Baron, it's got to pay off. It's got to pay off for the Ku Tigers, and they're trying to make it work here in the mid lane. Can Goong push back this turret fast enough? Going in. There's a wind wall. Maybe a bit of engage. Arrow goes through, barely misses Kuro.
Not the same OQ and Ashe from game 1.
I guess not, no. But they keep that turret alive. It still hasn't taken too much damage yet. Yeah, still about 2/3 health remaining. And if all Ku Tigers get out of this Baron is just a mid lane turret, I don't know if that was worth giving up the third Dragon for.
Smeb used his ultimate to cancel Dukes.
Oh, there we go. They're trying to engage. Going in. Arrow misses. Big ultimate comes in from Goong, but he gets blown up immediately. A double kill for Prey, and they're not done yet. This team is too strong. Kuro's starting to really go off. Well, before he got killed by Watch in the turret. And it looks like Najin is going to trade fairly even here as Duke trying to get someone to die for the turret. It is the ace, so a double kill for Ku, and now they're going to get something done with this Baron.
Now the Baron buff looks like a master stroke, because they'll finally be able to push in and take some objectives, but once again, Goong is caught, dies early in the fight, and Najin's hopes, they're looking like they're going to need a hope and a prayer, because Ku are all over them.
Yeah, I mean, that fight was really it, man. I mean, Najin tries to engage. Solar Flare slows, does not stun. Arrow doesn't hit anyone from Ku, but I mean, Emperor's Divide was okay, but look at all the damage coming in from Prey and Kuro here.
Without Azonia's, Goong is just dying very early in this fight. And remember, all of this happened, and for once it wasn't Malphite related, because Smeb showed up after 4 members were already dead for Najin.
Well, Najin just really kind of overplayed that engage. I mean, it was desperate. They needed to do something, I guess, but do you feel like they should just sat under turret, just kept clearing waves, waited out the Baron?
With the information they had, the fact that Duke was at that fight and there was no way for Smeb to get there, didn't have his ultimate up, I don't mind the engage, but man, now there's just no way back in, because who's the big carry of Najin? Of course it's OQ on this Ashe, but look at the item disparity. There's a Last Whisper QSS advantage compared to just a pickaxe from OQ, and he can be the best mechanical AD carry in the world. You cannot overcome such a stark item disadvantage when you need to actually be able to kill a tanky frontline of Braum, Malphite, and Gragas. Unfortunately, OQ on this Ashe is tickling this frontline from Ku.
Yeah, still no Zonias too from Goong. He's got the pieces, but just can't complete it right now.
Why did he build a death cap? I mean, I don't understand all the damage.
Oh, Goong going in, trying to make a play with that Emperor's Divide. Gets locked up immediately, though, with the Enchanting Crystal Arrow, and now Najin Ku all over Najin, rather. Double kill for Kuro.
Goodbye,
and
Najin.
Despite the split push from Duke, that is a one-team fight for Ku Tigers. I mean, Najin's just throwing themselves into the Ku Tigers now. They can't win a team fight like that. They can't win the game like that.
They've given up, though. That's the only way I can look into this. I don't agree with the death cap just because you're against a burst AD champion in the mid lane. You go full damage. Smeb might actually
goodbye,
die in
Smeb.
the turret there, but
Well, whatever. They're going to get the inhibitor for it, so I'd say it's worth it here.
But they just keep mercilessly throwing themselves in. Remember, Najin has engaged, what, the last 3 team fights and lost all of them.
Yeah, that's right. And if you think about the team fight back in mid, too, they engaged it after OQ's arrow was down. And so they didn't have all the proper CC. This time, Gung tries to make a play without the Zhonya's. Here's why you need the Zhonya's. He comes in, tries to do something, immediately hit with all the CC. There was no way to avoid it.
And dies during the Shen ult channel. Of course, OQ was now grouped up, doesn't have flash, dies instantly during the Malphite's CC duration.
Yeah. OQ didn't even get to use his Emperor's Divide there. Or Gung, rather, didn't even get to use his Emperor's Divide in that fight.
And now the leads in terms of items are just disgusting. Look at Kuro, just goes back and picks up a Guardian Angel. He's got enough damage with the Infinity Edge and Static Shift, doesn't even need to worry about finishing the Trinity Force. Okay, Duke's tanky, but no one else has any armor. Gung might finally complete the Zhonya's Hourglass, but it's 10 minutes too late.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 10,000 gold lead already at 31 minutes. Baron and Dragon coming up very soon. Najin's only hope is that Dragon buff. And with the way the teams are right now, I mean, they've just lost 2 team fights very one-sidedly in a row here, so.
And look at the wards, though. There's so many flank wards for Malphite, who has flash and teleport available to just kill OQ. Maybe OQ can go for a picture-perfect Captain Jack-esque flash and get away from it, but if this series has been any indication, I don't think so.
I mean, despite the strength of Najin lately in this tournament, despite the weakness of the KOO Tigers lately, in this best of 3,
teleport's coming.
It's looking all KOO Tigers. That's right, Smeb coming from behind here. KOO Tigers, will they be in trouble? I think they are. Braum ult goes down. They drop the ultimate. OQ trying to back away, but Smeb is all over him already. There's Q. Big ult. Knocks up 3 people. Last breath coming in, and it is going to be, I think, the last breath for Najin the Empire. Another double kill for Prey, and Duke the last man standing. It will be a perfect ace. A double kill for Kuro. And you got to think, at this point, even if the KOO Tigers can't end the game right now, it is over, and I think they can end the game right now. Watch coming in, 20 seconds till OQ comes back, but they've already got people at the Nexus turrets, and so the KOO Tigers bringing it back in the blind pick with this Malphite to take down a resurgent Najin the Empire. 2-1 in the wildcard match. They get into the playoffs. They will face CJ on Wednesday. It's over, guys. GG.
A complete dismantling by the KOO Tigers. We were ready to write them off previous to today's series, specifically after a game 1 where Najin looked their old and look how much emotion there is in the booth, because KOO Tigers, their season's still alive.
No kidding. And I mean, I'm just shocked. Najin letting the Malphite get in there 2 games in a row. You know, OQ going back to his old OQ ways of getting himself killed, and I don't know, what can you say, man? I mean, the team fights were not good from Najin. The decision-making beyond the very, very early game was not good for Najin, and the KOO Tigers capitalized on it. I mean, despite how weak they've looked at times this season, they're still a force to be reckoned with. You cannot underestimate the KOO Tigers. Najin did that. They're out of Champion Summer.
And it's all encapsulated in the solo kill under the turret by Smeb on Ashe. At the professional level, you are never flashing aggressively onto a Malphite under his inner turret. It's a low percentage play at best, and it was a disaster for Smeb. And this result is a disaster for a Najin team that was so fast ascending the rankings at the end of this season.
Now, that said, Najin is out of Champion Summer, but they're still going to be back for that Worlds Gauntlet. Their hopes of going to Worlds are still alive, guys, so if you're a Najin fan, at least you've got that. Remember Najin Shield's epic run through the Worlds Gauntlet last year. They started at the bottom, just like this Najin team is going to do. They're even below Jin Air right now in the circuit points, so they will have to run the Gauntlet completely if they want to get in the Worlds. But today, it's all about the KOO Tigers. It's all about the KOO Tigers moving on to face CJ Entus in the first playoff match that we'll see later this week.
Did not expect them to be able to book that. Najin, they all looked bemused in the booth, and they should. They had this series in the palm of their hands.
They really did.
They blinked a couple of times, and it was all over.
What a one-sided game 1 in favor of Najin. Then KOO Tigers bringing it back 2 games in a row. Smeb, absolutely, I agree, the MVP here for game number 3. He found the flanks. He found the way to get in. onto the team every time. Very rarely did I see less than a 3-man knockup for this guy.
And the best thing for Coup Tigers is now that CJ have the headache. You never want to be in a position where you have to ban Malphite. We may
Or
never
Yasuo.
see this Malphite pick again until another high-stakes game like this. But its effectiveness this series, unbelievable.
The Kun's itemization really questionable in game number 3 as well. Waiting so long, I don't think he ever finished the Zonias, and in a fight like that, I mean,
You're
could
against
have really used it.
You're against a comp that facilitates Yasuo getting into the back line, and you go death cap second. Sure,
Yeah.
the attack speed in lane from the Nationals too did a lot of work, but if ever the game was going to become even or better, man, these awesome Smeb are outstanding.
Well, I guess we know out of OQ and Prey who's got the better Ashe now. Pretty definitively, it's Prey.
OQ looked wonderful in the first game, but along with his team, his face checks in game 2, but this particular clip, this encapsulates Najin EM5 in so many different ways.
Say it with me now, OQ.
I thought the OQ moments were a thing of the past, but Smeb smiles, so do the fans, and look at the emotion. I love seeing the raw emotion in the booth, because Coup, an hour and a half ago, they definitely didn't see this coming.
No, I don't think anyone really did. But the Coup Tigers, they're going to be the ones in our post-match interview. Max is here to translate for us. Go ahead and take it away.
Hello, guys. It was a wild card game between Najin and Coup today, and we had a great game today. And Coup was able to defeat Najin. And a round of applause for all of Coup's members. First of all, Smeb, you got your MVP in the third set. How do you feel? Honestly, we prepared a lot, but in the first set, we didn't play well, so we were a bit disappointed. But we played well in second, third set, and I feel really good. Now, in second and third set, you brought out Malphite, and we haven't seen that champion for a while. What was the reason behind picking Malphite? Well, first of all, our mid player, Kuro, is really good at Yasuo, so we were trying to, create a composition around that. So we thought of Malphite, but the laning phase is really, really hard with Malphite, so I had to practice a lot. So the most memorable moment today is your solo kill against Ashe in the bottom lane. What did you feel when you got that solo kill? Well, honestly, it was a really tough time for us at that time, and we had a very, negative atmosphere. But because of that kill, we were really able to turn it around, and we were able to feel better. And in the team con, we were all just saying, "Nice."
I wonder what Najin was saying.
And last words being the first to interview here today. Now we have a lot of games left, and we're gonna, really grit our teeth and practice hard, and let's go fighting. Now next up is Hojin. Now you won the wildcard game. How do you feel? Honestly, I really did want to win today, and we did have a hard game today, but we still feel really good that we won today. Now, these days, the meta really favors, players like Watch, like Elise. And was there a reason you were letting him play Elise? There was no particular reason, but I felt like I could really play against that, so just let him play Elise. It was fine. So, and you're talking about the jungling, and Hojin saying, I didn't really. There weren't that many jungle fights, so it wasn't really my pressure. The pressure was on my teammates, so I felt a little sorry for that. So we got #1 KDA for jungle this season. How do you feel? I didn't know until today that I was actually #1, so I found out today, and I felt good. Once again, congratulations on your wildcard victory, and now we're gonna go over to Kuro. I heard that you got really upset after the loss in the first set. What was that about? Well, I was playing Lulu, and I had there was nothing I can do during the game, so I was very upset after that. So in the second set, I heard that you really wanted to carry. So how do you feel when you got the MVP? Honestly, I think Godfight should have gotten the MVP. But, you know, the first game, I think it was a very depressing loss for us. So, you know, even though we felt all right, you know, we kept going on with confidence. And we had great confidence to, you know, really crush down on our opponents. Now, in the second set, you Najin banned Azir and let you have Victor. How did you feel? I thought they were gonna ban, you know, Victor, but you know, really, thank you very much for letting me have that pick. Now, they say you're really good at Yasuo play. Did you prepare a lot for that for the blind pick? No, I don't think I'm necessarily good at Yasuo. I just have fun with Yasuo, and our teammates enjoy it when I play Yasuo. So you know, we decided to go with that comp, and I think that was a good thing, good synergy, and I felt thankful to my teammates. Now, your last words going into the finals or heading towards the finals. In spring, we were on top, you know, looking down, but now we're on the bottom, you know, looking up. So now that we have some momentum, you know, going into CJ and KT, I think we're going to prepare really hard and even beat SKT and make it to the finals. Thank you. And now we're going to bring it over to Prey. Now you guys reverse swept Najin. Najin had the momentum in the first set. Did you know you were going to win? Did you expect to win today? Honestly, it was a composition that we didn't really practice much against. So it didn't really go well. And I think we were underestimating our teammates or opponents a little bit. But our coaches really helped us, you know, give us a good comp through ban and pick. Now, OQ played Ashe in the second game. Did you expect them to play Ashe? Honestly, we didn't expect even 1% for them to pick Ashe. OQ likes to play champions like Corki and Lucian, quite aggressive champions. So when he picked Ashe, we were quite surprised. Is that why you picked Lucian then? Yeah, I thought the picks were really going to be, you know, going to be depend on who's going to pick Lucian, but OQ didn't play Lucian, so we were kind of caught off guard. Now, in the last blind pick, OQ picked Ashe as well. When you saw that, what did you feel? Well, when we first went into the champion screen, I saw Ashe and I thought that was me, but it was actually OQ, so I was a little surprised. And we looked at the, you know, matchup, and we thought we had a pretty good matchup, so we were able to just, you know, play pretty well. Now, last words going to the next game, especially to your coaches. You know, our coaches, our head coach and coaches came in and said to us, you know, really sorry, because, you know, after the first set. But, you know, second, third set, they gave us a really good, perfect ban pick, and thank you very much to the coaches. Lastly, we'll go to Gorilla. Now you guys have to, you know, advance step by step, and that might risk, you know, exposing you guys' tactics. What do you feel about that? We actually have a pretty wide champion pool, you know, such as like Malphite that we played today. So I think that's not a big problem to us, and I really want to play against KT, and we'll make sure we'll advance to play KT. Now, before facing KT, you guys have to play CJ. Who do you play against the most? But I want to really play against KT Nagne, and I know that, you know, even though CJ has a really good champion pool and really good plays, we have to beat them. So, one last word going against Mad Life. To Mad Life, I think we've both played for a long time, but we're not really friendly. So I'm a little disappointed with that, but I would like to get to know Mad Life a little better.
The real talk from Gorilla. Wow. Look out. He'd like to get to know you better.
Now, Ku beat
다음 주 수요일이면 시대와의 경기가 있을 텐데요. 저도
won the wild card game, and now we're gonna end the interviews and send it back to you guys at the desk.
All right, thanks for the translating, Max, and congratulations to the Ku Tigers, able to come in and bring it back 2 games in a row to take the match 2-1 over Najin Empire, and really a bit of an upset. A lot of people, us including, expected Najin to be able to take this one, but Ku Tigers coming at Najin with something they weren't expecting, something that they were not ready to handle, and Najin falling back into some rough old habits, and they are out of Champion Summer. So with that, the Ku Tigers will move on Wednesday to face CJ Entus in a best-of-5 playoff match. That is going to be so awesome.
Yeah, back to the regular playoff format. This is where the playoffs truly start. Of course, we moved to 5 teams.
Thursday, my bad.
It is Thursday.
I guess
okay.
Thursday. I think it might actually be Wednesday, guys. I think that might be a mistake, because my calendar at home, the one that OGN sent me, says Wednesday, but who knows? Sometimes esports can get a little bit crazy with the scheduling, so be sure to watch Twitter and stuff, follow OGN and all that, and us, and we'll let you know.
Well, it's all up in the air. I thought I got everything worked out. I knew what I was expecting. I penciled in Najin for the next round, and then who knows what happened to Najin those last 2 games.
Turns out we have no idea what to expect from the matches, from the scheduling.
Bring
We
back
just have
Monte
no
Cristo.
idea.
We need the order
That's
of
right.
Monte Cristo.
I guess so. But, man, what a great best-of-3. A lot of action. I liked it. We got the blind pick. It was awesome. And in the end, the GE Tigers, it's nice to see them, or Ku Tigers, rather, nice to see them back in winning form, but they are going to really need to bring what they brought today and then some if they want to beat a team like CJ Entus right now.
And CJ would have got so much information about their tendencies, both good and bad. The Malphite pick will now suddenly be something that might have to be respected. Don't expect to see that a lot coming through from the next series. Ku have a chance, but you have to think CJ come in pretty heavy favorites.
Well, the Malphite pick is really interesting. It's a bit perplexing that it worked against Najin, and I
Twice.
wonder if CJ is going to let them get away with it. But so far, it seems like they've really found a way to make it work for them. So, guys, definitely don't miss that playoff match. It's going to be awesome. Thanks for watching tonight from Seoul, South Korea. Do and Papa Smithy casting some champions. Wildcard. We'll see you next time.